of those things, it becomes overwhelming to you, and sometimes you begin to act it out in your personal life. Those things are not really necessarily true. Those people are not really satisfied to give those advices or share those. They don't even know what they are talking about. They just want to trend on social media. They just want to get views. They just want to get likes. They just want to get comments. They want to stir up. There was something we call rage baiting, when you say something that you know that people are going to disagree with, just to get traction or reaction on your page. So these people are just looking for that traction. They just want to meet. They just want to get paid. They are looking for money. But then you internalize what they are saying and you start practicing it in your home. Maybe they tell you that motherhood is a burden, motherhood is this, motherhood is that, and you see yourself. It shows up in your reality. Motherhood becomes hard for you, becomes difficult, becomes a burden. Your partner becomes a burden. It becomes someone that is no longer supportive, but trying to weigh you down. Not necessarily because they are, but because this is something you've heard over time on social media, and then you are interpreting it in your personal life. So sometimes it looks like you cutting off content like this, creators like these, people that share this sort of opinion that would get you to that point. It also leads to limiting your social interaction in terms of the particular people you influence with. This one comes on WhatsApp or sometimes Instagram. People that they start posting. Don't get me wrong, they are posting that they are getting married, they are posting that they have kids, they just got a new car, they just started a business, they just packed 1 million orders, they just did this, they just purchased a land, they just bought gold. Yeah, all these things. They went on vacation. It's a lot, and sometimes if you don't have things going on for you at that point, it can be triggering, and it just puts you in that state of distress. So what I do for me is, when I notice that okay, this kind of person's post is triggering something in me, I'm happy for them, but then it's touchy, I just tend to mute you for a particular period in time, just for me to get myself back. So you could mute a particular person or people on your WhatsApp status, on your Instagram, just so that you don't see all their posts for the meantime, and it doesn't affect your mental well-being or mental health. It can also be like you saying no to things. There are things that people will ask you to do. Oh no, I can't. No is a complete sentence. I know that when we grow up, when you say no, they tell you why, or you grow up and the people trying to antagonize you for refusing to do things. But one of the things that you need to learn as an adult is that no is a complete sentence, and sometimes just no, I can't. Saying no, it often helps.
Every second, the world changes, markets rise, leaders speak, stories unfold. To keep up, you don't just need news, you need clarity, you need speed, you need perspective.
That's why Aneke TV brings you the global pulse. Accurate, reliable, right when it matters most. Aneke TV. Move with the world.
Sometimes it has to do with you choosing yourself or prioritizing your rest. There are times when you're just so exhausted, and you know that everybody is looking at you. Girl, keep doing this, keep doing that, but you're exhausted. You just need rest. You know that you need to get rest. Just go and take that rest. Go and rest for 30 minutes, for 1 hour, and gain yourself back. Not trying to fulfill what any other person is looking on to you to do. So protecting your peace is a lot, but it's also a small thing. It's you knowing yourself, knowing what triggers you, what can get you to this edge, what can push you over, and then avoiding those things, creating a system that would help you avoid those things. If it's somebody that tends to trigger you with the things they say, limit your interaction with that person. If that person is family, try as much as you can to still limit your conversation with that person. If it is a situation, maybe someone invites you to a particular thing, and you know that the way they treat you when they invite you to things, you don't like them. Next time they invite you for something, you say no. Sometimes it looks for people sharing when you want to do something. Yes, this one is important. When you want to do something and you share with people around you, you're hoping for support, but then they try to tell you that, okay, oh, no, I don't think this is going to work. Not necessarily because it's going to work, but they're just negative about what you want to do. And you find out that each time you talk to them and they tell you this, you tend to not do that. Stop telling them. Stop telling them. And then there are other people that all they do is they call you and they tell you all their problems. They never just call you for you guys to have a light conversation. It's always about pouring their problems on you. When you notice, and if you're someone that tends to internalize problems, someone like me now, when you keep dumping problems at me, I tend to soak it up. I'm like a sponge. I soak it up, I carry it on my head, it start bothering me. I start thinking of what's going on in this person's life. Like, it just bothers me a lot. So I tend to carry things a lot. And because I know that I tend to carry things a lot, sometimes when I notice that you always bother me, sometimes I'll just excuse myself, because I know that I'm like I'm like a foam. Let me just say a foam. I'm soaking in all of this, and I don't want to do that, because at times, most times, it's definitely going to work out for you. But I've already killed myself worrying about you, or worrying for you, or trying to go the extra mile for you, trying to even bankrupt myself to see that you are okay. So knowing that this is my trigger, I tend to back off a bit, or I tend to, when I'm overwhelmed, I'm just like, shh, calm down, chill. You create systems by removing these sorts of people from your life. People that are always coming to you when they're happy, they don't come home. When things are going well for them, they don't come to you. But when the slightest sight of trouble comes, that's when they remember that you exist, and they just want to pour their problems on you. Sometimes, this can look like you worrying about things that you can't change. When I find situations that I can't change, I can't do anything, but I'm going to worry, because as a human being, you can't help yourself but worry about things. When I find myself in this predicament, I often try to pray about it. I try to use the word of God. There is something like I think Jeremiah 37 or 30:37, either Jeremiah 30:37 or Jeremiah 37, that says that I'm with the Lord. Is there anything too hard for me to do? So when I find myself in this and I'm worrying, I just tell myself, is there anything too hard for God to do? No, there's nothing. And it just calms me down, and I keep proceeding with my life. Protecting your peace is underrated. If you protect your peace, you are productive, you are in your space, you are happy, you blossom, you feel contented with what you have. You're focusing on the future, on how to make things better, on creative energy, creative thinking, creative mindset, positivity. That's what happens when you protect your peace. So this year, I know that we talked a lot about achieving goals, achieving the goals that we set for ourselves in this year 2026. But to achieve those goals, to create those boundaries that we talked about in creating boundaries, you can check our previous episodes. To actively participate even in the upcoming elections, sometimes it means you protecting your peace and protecting your energy from influencers that will try to influence you to vote for this candidate, or do this or do that. Sometimes you just need to protect your peace and limit your interactions with them. Then you make up your mind on what you want to do, and you focus and you do it. So I implore you that on this episode, take the time out, know what you can do to protect your peace. Is it people that you need to cut off? Is it people that you need to distance yourself from? Is it situations that you need to remove yourself from? Sometimes it's even organizations or groups that you find yourself in, and they're just pressuring you, and causing you to be in emotional distress. Find out what that trigger, that edge, that stopping point is for you, and protect your peace. Channel your energy to positive things, to contentment, to productivity. Alright? Yeah. I think I've said it all. So let's go to our bowl of words. We'll pick a word, and whatever that word is, we'll just talk lightly on it and we'll proceed. So I want my eyes to be closed. So this is something we've gotten previously before. It says you are given this life because you are strong enough to live it. You are living this life because you're strong enough to live it. There is nobody in this world that you can't live without. So there are times I tell myself that, oh my God, how are people surviving without their partners? How do people survive without their parents? How do people survive without their siblings? But the truth is, God created us independent. That is the truth. Yeah, we say that a person is not an island. That is true. But there is nobody in this life that you can't do without, or you can't live without. You can live without anybody. You can live without anybody. If parents or moms can leave their children and they are doing bubbling fine in their newfound life, and their children are also thriving, you can live without anybody. So when you notice that someone is a constant source of distress to your life, cut that person off, a situation, sometimes even a job. When a particular job does nothing but compounds your problem, you just need to leave that job. So you are strong enough, you are given this life because you're strong enough to leave it. Yes, you're strong enough to take the decision to protect your peace, your energy, your mental and your emotional well-being. And I hope, I truly hope that you are strong enough to do this and you take the bull by the horn and do this. Because on the other side is beauty, on the other side is love, on the other side is peace. Peace is underrated. On the other side is peace. You sleep, you have positive dreams. Even if you want to have dreams, you're not seeing that particular situation. But someone like me, when something happens, I can dream about that particular situation in 1001 ways and I don't have rest. So on the other side is peace, joy, productivity, creativity, and zeal. So just take advantage of that. Alright, my name is Chidima Asoba and this is Dear Woman. Remember that Dear Woman shows on Aneke TV every Wednesday and Saturday. Make sure to watch, make sure to like, and make sure to drop a comment or share this video to someone that you believe this topic of protecting their peace is going to be relevant to. I love you. Bye.
The eagles stand as a majestic symbol of strength, clarity, and vision. Its ability to soar above storms signifies resilience, while its shaped sight represents focus. This is why many nations, including Nigeria, use the eagle as an emblem of nation pride. Eagles do not fear challenges, they embrace them. They fly higher when the winds become strong, rising above obstacles rather than avoiding them. This teaches us that problems are not barriers, but stepping stones for those who dare. To live like an eagle is to stay focused, courageous, and disciplined. It is to see opportunities where others see only difficulties. The sky is not your limit, it is your launch pad.
Sexual and gender-based violence, SGBV, is one of the most pervasive and pressing human rights issues globally, affecting 1 in 3 women in their lifetime, often by intimate partners. Non-partner sexual violence affects at least 6% of women globally and among adolescent girls aged 15 to 19, with about 15 million having faced forced sex. In regions like sub-Saharan Africa and parts of Asia, including Nigeria, the problem is particularly acute, reflecting deep-seated cultural norms, weak legal systems, and the lack of political will to combat it. In Nigeria, sexual and gender-based violence remains a challenge despite efforts being made by different stakeholders to curb the scourge. This is buttressed by the National Demographic and Health Survey (NDHS) 2018, which revealed that 30% of women aged 15 to 14 have experienced physical violence since age of 15. 7% of women in that same age group reported experiencing sexual violence at some point in their lives, while 1 in 4 women, that's 25%, have experienced spousal violence, emotional, physical, or sexual, by their husbands or partner. What is more disturbing is the prey on children and adolescent victims. According to UNICEF, 25% of girls and 10% of boys in Nigeria have been sexually abused before turning 18. This implies that 1 in 5 Nigerian girls experience sexual violence before 18 years. From metropolitan cities like Abuja and Lagos to rural areas in states across Nigeria, women, girls, men and boys continue to face physical, emotional and sexual abuse, often from those closest to them. In some cases, this abuse is perpetuated by influential members of the society. Even more disturbing is that the majority of cases go unreported, buried under layers of fear, ignorance, family ties, shame, and societal silence. Sexual and gender-based violence is not a new phenomenon. Its roots are deeply embedded in history, culture, power dynamics and deep-seated inequalities in power and social structures, particularly those that perpetuate the dominance of men over women. It's a complex issue with roots in cultural norms, society beliefs, and historical practices that normalize violence and discrimination against women. One of the oldest and most significant roots of SGBV is patriarchy, a societal system where men hold primary power. Societies have historically placed men in dominant roles, with women expected to be submissive, obedient, and silent. This imbalance has often justified violence against women as a means of control or punishment. Harmful traditional practices such as child marriage, female genital mutilation (FGM), widowhood rights, and honor killings are deeply rooted in societal customs. In many cultures, these practices are normalized and rarely questioned, even when they involve violence. Historically, laws and institutions supported or ignored violence against women and marginalized groups. For example, marital rape was not considered a crime in many countries until recent decades. Slavery, colonization, and armed conflicts also contributed to institutionalizing sexual violence, especially against women and girls. SGBV is often used as a weapon of war or conflict, where sexual violence is inflicted to humiliate, dominate, or destroy communities during wars and internal conflicts. Women and girls are often disproportionately targeted by sexual violence. Women have also fallen victims to rape during armed robbery operations. Additionally, economic schools and communities, people in authority often exploit their power through coercion and harassment for the purpose of emphasis. Some of the factors contributing to the prevalence of SGBV include unequal power relations, inordinate sexual fantasies and orientation, harmful traditional and cultural practices or beliefs, gender stereotypes, lack of enforcement of laws, poverty, armed conflict, denormalization of violence in communities, stigma and victim blaming, family ties, the Nigerian factor, suppression of cases, low awareness about rights, weak institutional frameworks, unwillingness of victims' family to pursue justice, among others. In many cultures, patriarchal norms reinforce male dominance and female subservience, discouraging victims from speaking out or seeking justice. SGBV refers to harmful acts or abuse committed against a person because of his or her sex or gender. It is forcing another person to do something against his or her will through violence, coercion, threats, deception, cultural expectations, or economic means. It includes a wide range of abuses such as domestic or intimate partner violence, forced marriage and child marriage, female genital mutilation (FGM), sexual harassment and exploitation, emotional and psychological abuse. Sexual violence is any act attempted or threatened that is sexual in nature and carried out without the consent of the victim. Sexual violence includes rape and sexual assault, sexual abuse and harassment, exploitation and forced prostitution. It can happen within marriages, especially when there is a lack of consent for sexual activity by one of the spouses. Any sexual activity with a child, any person who has not yet completed 18 years of age, constitutes sexual violence. The impact of SGBV is far-reaching. These acts not only violate fundamental human rights, but also lead to long-term physical, mental, and emotional trauma. It has devastating effects on the development of a child involved, as well as on his or her physical and mental health. SGBV has health, economic, and social impacts on the victims. Victims may suffer from health disorders. Victims may be unable to work or attend school, affecting their economic independence. Survivors often face ostracization, stigma, and isolation from their communities. To combat SGBV effectively, There is need for a multi-sectoral approach that would involve as key actors. Public awareness. There is need for public awareness on the ills associated with SGBV. Victims, survivors, their families and other members of the public need information on how to seek help and justice. They need a new orientation on how to handle SGBV cases. They need to be educated on the need of speaking up and seeking justice. Even when community leaders want to cover up, they need to know that there are support services available for them. Community education and media campaigns can help change harmful gender norms and encourage reporting. Strengthen legal. 1. Public awareness. 2. Strengthen legal frameworks. There is a need for strong legislation on SGBV, as well as strict implementation of laws. Existing laws like Child Rights Act 2003, Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act, VAP Act 2025, and Trafficking in Persons Prohibition Enforcement and Administration Act 2015 should be enforced to the letter. States yet to domesticate the VAP Act should do so and possibly establish special GBV courts or gender response unit or team. The Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act, passed in 2015, has been a significant milestone, but its implementation remains weak and uneven across Nigeria's 36 states. 3. Empower victims. Create safe spaces, hotlines, and shelter for survivors and support them with legal and psychological assistance. Only 30% of victims seek help due to fear, stigma, and lack of trust in law enforcement. 4. Promote gender equality. Address the root causes of gender inequality through education and economic empowerment. 5. Funding. Prosecution of SGBV cases requires funds. Prosecution of SGBV cases requires funds. The victims and their families are usually financially incapacitated to prosecute the case. In all cases, the prosecution is done by a government agency or ministry within the limited resources available to them. There is need for adequate funding to agencies or units and the Ministry of Justice to help them prosecute the cases. Logistic supports to volunteers and service providers on SGBV issues. 6. Increased number of state councils. Having a reasonable number of state councils willing to specialize in SGBV cases will definitely add an impetus in the fight against the scourge. 7. Naming and shaming. Just like Lagos and Anambra states have queued into the policy of naming and shaming the offenders, other states need to align. The Sexual Offender Register, managed by the National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, NAPTIP, is only accessible online currently. The register serves as a tool to document and track cases of sexual violence and abuse, including those reported, arraigned, or convicted under the Violence Against Persons Prohibition VAP Act. The register includes information on convicted offenders as well as those who have been arraigned or reported, with varying levels of access depending on the user and the nature of the information. 8. Train law enforcement. Equip police, judiciary, and healthcare workers to handle SGBV cases with sensitivity and urgency. Aside the already listed measures, establishment of specialized SGBV prosecution units, a national SGBV agency, launched grassroots engagement structures, making it easy for victims to report and seek protection and justice in the case of SGBV. Strengthening of data collection and reporting systems, the designation of special courts for SGBV cases, operationalization of the VAP Law 2017, and robust multi-agency coordination can go a long way in fighting the systemic social malady. The origin of SGBV lies in systemic inequality reinforced over centuries by culture, power structures, conflict and law. To eliminate SGBV, societies must address these root causes by promoting equality, education, legal reforms and accountability. SGBV is so pervasive that the United Nations Children Fund, UNICEF, and the United Nations Population Fund, UNFPA, have committed to the global movement to end violence against women and children, which began at the inaugural Women's Global Leadership Institute in 1991. Despite growing awareness and advocacy, millions of women, girls, men and boys continue to face various forms of violence simply because of their gender or sexual orientation. This is why efforts must be doubled to tame the scourge, which is more than a societal issue, but also a public health emergency, a human rights violation, and a barrier to sustainable development. We must join hands together in fighting this menace. If you cannot prosecute or fund a prosecution, you can volunteer information on SGBV. You can volunteer information on SGBV. If you cannot volunteer information, you can create awareness or create a safe space for a victim. If you cannot create awareness, you can contribute to diluting the patriarchy, societal structures, and cultural hegemonic practices that normalize violence and discrimination against women. It is also important for state governments to support community initiatives, as well as non-governmental organizations' efforts aimed at preventing sexual and gender-based violence crimes in the country.
Every second, the world changes, markets rise, leaders speak, stories unfold. To keep up, you don't just need news, you need clarity, you need speed, you need perspective.
That's why Aneke TV brings you the global pulse. Accurate, reliable, right when it matters most. Aneke TV. Move with the world.
In Africa's most populous nation, women make up nearly half of the population. They vote, they campaign, they mobilize communities, they shape families and economies. But inside Nigeria's highest lawmaking chambers, their voices remain a minority. Today, a proposed constitutional amendment seeks to change that. It is called the Reserved Seats for Women Bill, a proposal that could reshape Nigeria's democracy for generations. Supporters call it long overdue correction. Critics describe it as political tokenism. But one question remains: can democracy truly represent the people when half the population is largely missing from power? Nigeria has one of the lowest levels of female political representation in Africa. Since 1999, women have struggled to gain significant presence in the National Assembly. Currently, women occupy only a small fraction of seats in both chambers. The Reserved Seats for Women Bill proposes a major shift: 37 additional Senate seats, 1 per state, and the Federal Capital Territory. 37 additional seats in the House of Representatives. 3 additional seats for women in each state House of Assembly. The arrangement will last for 16 years, 4 election cycles. Supporters say it is designed to create small space for women until equality becomes normal. Advocates argue that Nigeria's political structure has long favored men. Campaign costs are high. Party structures are male-dominated. Election violence discourages participation. For decades, reforms have been slow. The reserve seats bill is designed to break that cycle of exclusion. Nigeria will not be the first country to adopt special measures for women's representation. In Rwanda, constitutional quotas helped women become the majority in parliament. In South Africa, party quotas increased female representation after apartheid. In Senegal, gender parity laws transformed political participation within a decade. India and Pakistan also used reserved seats for women in parliament. Supporters argue that without deliberate intervention, equality may take generations. Not everyone agrees with the proposal. Critics argue that democracy should be based on open competition, not reserved positions. Others fear symbolic representation without real influence. There are also concerns about costs and expansion of government structures. A central question remains: must reserved seats be written into the Constitution? Legal experts argue that constitutional backing would ensure stability and protection. Without it, future governments could reverse the policy. But constitutional amendment requires approval by the National Assembly and at least 2/3 of state houses of assembly, making the process politically demanding. But beyond politics, the debate is about representation in society. Advocates say visibility in leadership shapes ambition and opportunity for young women. But experts warn that representation alone is not enough. Broader reforms are needed in education, security, political parties, and economic empowerment. As debate continues, Nigeria confronts fundamental questions about democracy and fairness. Can temporary measures create lasting equality? Will reserved seats empower women or remain symbolic? What does true representation mean in a diverse nation? For supporters, the bill is correction. For critics, it is controversial reform. But both sides agree Nigeria's democracy is still evolving. The future of the bill may depend not only on lawmakers, but on whether Nigerians believe democracy works best when every voice has a seat at the table.
Across Nigeria's dynamic economy, enterprise is on the move. From the resilience of small businesses to the expanding reach of indigenous industries, commerce thrives on innovation, determination, and vision. Finance is evolved, emerge. Every figure tells a story. Every trend shapes the future. The question is, where is the next opportunity? On Aneke TV, we bring you clarity beyond the numbers. This is Business Outlook on Aneke TV, tracking the markets, analyzing the trends, and spotlighting the drivers of economic growth. Aneke TV, informing enterprise, shaping perspective.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to Aneke TV. It's a beautiful, beautiful Thursday morning here in Enugu State. It's rainy, it's windy, it's chilly, and of course, it's warm and it's bright. Welcome to Sunrise. I am Princess Ken Ochoma.
And I'm Uche Osai saying good morning. And to you, our global audience, thank you for letting us into your beautiful space this morning. Ochoma, how
yes, I mean, this
you
is.
Look so, I feel so good.
I feel different.
You feel ready.
Yes, this is
looking beautiful. Aneke looks good on you.
This is beyond branding.
Aneke looks good on you.
Thank you.
Both in wearing, in performance, and then in being. That's wonderful.
Well, that's what we are. I mean, this is what we do. This is the business.
Yes.
This is the life.
Yes.
This is. I mean, what? Sometimes I wonder what I would do if I wasn't in this space.
Anyway, I don't think there's any better place to be when it comes to the media in Nigeria at this moment.
True.
Let's talk about Southeast. Aneke is here to take over.
Yes.
Let's not just brag about
Yes.
it. People are wondering what is here about this Aneke. But one thing they can know for now is that Aneke is indigenous.
True.
And being indigenous is here to stay.
True.
Yes.
And also this morning we have a couple of stories on, on the newspapers, but one story that has become widespread, has become, a very, interesting story is the recent fake agency scandal. It has become one that is.
In fact, anywhere you go to, that's the conversation.
That's the conversation.
I did say yesterday, we can't wish it away.
True.
And we can't PR away out of that issue. We need to dissect it. There has to be a conversation. There has to be a proper, dissection of the problem, in surgery, until you get to the very, cancerous cells, until you get to the very cells that are causing the issue,
yes,
and exercise them, then you may not begin to have a semblance of peace, and then the doctors may not really actually be able to say that, okay, look at the factors that make this cell, either not grow or become cancerous. So in this situation, we need to really dig deep and understand how come this is happening. And then, today we are talking about just one. There could be several others.
True.
And that's why there has to be a conversation around it. And if I were Mr. President, just like yesterday, I would have called in an independent forensic auditors to come in, look into these issues, and then bring it to limelight. As
much as the ICPC is investigating, we also need people to check out the numbers, check out all these factors, audit these figures,
Ochoma,
that's
the issue there.
Put everybody on the table.
You see, that's the issue there. Yes, SPC has been mandated by Mr. President to investigate. Kudos.
Yes.
Calling EFCC, wonderful. But the truth is that there is there's a erosion of institutional trust in Nigeria.
Yes.
Do Nigerian people really trust that these agencies will be unbiased in dealing with implicated government officials? Remember that we are in a nation at the moment where we have strong individuals, weakened institutions, and this begins to ride around trust issues. The public, do they have actual trust in these agencies to do the right thing? And then in this instance, it's not just about doing the right thing. I think that what Mr. President should be about is that, like Caesar's wife, they need to be seen to be above board, not with any iota of blemishes. So in this instance, it's not about just the optics, it's about people believing that the right thing has been done. You may see the ICPC, the EFCC giving clean bill of health to certain individuals. But beyond that, what you need with the presidency is that the public believes that the presidency is untainted. That's the bottom line.
Truly, and we also have the recurring or the ongoing issue on the bill for state police. So far, this one also
a lot of conversation.
There's a lot.
One thing I've come to admire in our president and in this administration, and historians, those of us who are very much keen in history, one thing I know that we will document about this administration is the boldness to take on reforms.
Yes.
And there's reforms everywhere. You're talking about state police now. You understand? We are looking, when we look at education, there is a bold reform coming. When we go into the 53-year-old national scheme, the National Youth Service Corps, there is a reform there too. So all facets of our national life is undergoing bold reform. You know, starting from day one, Mr. President did promise to hit the ground running, and he did. He hit the ground running. Subsidy gone. And we're still in the conversation. So one thing I know that historians will not shy away from doing when they write about this administration is that it is an administration with the boldness to bring about reforms.
In whatever capacity it comes.
Almost in all facets of our life. I am waiting for religious reform bill.
Honestly.
Yes.
Honestly. All right, these and more will be our conversations this morning. But first we'll look at our quote for the day. Our quote from the day is from Barack Obama. And he says, the ballot is stronger than the bullet. Okay, sorry, this is from Abraham Lincoln. Pardon me. The ballot is stronger than the bullet. The ballot is, this is quite controversial, because most persons believe it's the bullet. Whoever has the gun has much power, or whoever wields the weapon wields much power. But for Abraham Lincoln to tell us this morning that he who has the ballot, he who controls the ballot, that's us, the electorate, people who vote, people who come out to exercise their political rights, they are the ones with the stronger power in society. I don't know how I feel,
this is quite powerful, and especially coming from the great Abraham Lincoln himself, a great political philosopher, leader of thought, in this regard, coming to tell you that the ballot is stronger than the bullet. I quite agree with him in total. It depends on perspective, and when you dissect it critically, you will see that Abraham Lincoln is not far from the truth. Yes, speaking to the office of the citizen, which is the highest office in the land, when you talk about the power of the ballot being stronger than the bullet, yes, whoever controls the leadership, the authority controls the gun. And in a society, a sane society, you can't wield the gun if you're not satisfied. If you don't drive your authority from the authority of the CNC, the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, on whose pleasure the Armed Forces serves. You understand? That's where the bullet lies. And there is this comparison between the pen and the sword. Which one is mightier? Yes. You understand? And over time, you've come to realize that the pen is mightier than the sword. And when you look at the power of the ballot, you control it all. It is the ballot that controls even the military, that wins the gun. And it is the ballot. Elect a wrong individual, you will see the world thrown in turmoil, in chaos. You understand? So the power of the ballot controls visibly anything on earth. But the point remains, do we realize the power we hold? Yes, that's the conversation. Do we realize that power? That with that very card in our hands, we can determine the trajectory of futures, generation yet unborn. That's the power we have. The power to tell President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, it's time for you to go back to Budillion in Lagos. The same power that the citizens with there to tell a sitting president then to go back to Tueke. If the masses of Nigeria had that capacity and that power, and they know it, then those at the helm of affairs will sit up and do the right thing. But things continue the way it is because the populace, the citizens, don't know that they have a power that is so potent, so powerful than the bullet. And until you realize that, you will know that the voter is king, and the citizen who occupies the highest office in the land should be respected, worshipped, adored, and then you do everything to serve their interests. So I align wholeheartedly with Abraham Lincoln in this quote. But the point remains that, when you have a gun in your hand and you don't know what it is meant for, you understand, when at the slightest shout of hooah, you will run away. But if you understand the power of the trigger, when you hear shout, you echo louder and you start gallant, because at the pull of a trigger, you can take and make, give life in that instance. So for Abraham Lincoln to come here telling us this is a man himself who, you know, got to the highest, the apex of leadership of the most revered country in the world, right? So from experience, he is telling you, yes, that this is where the power lies.
And Lincoln is someone who his works, even after his life has come and gone, someone who still lives on.
You know, we'll talk about men who has left legacies that continue to define democracy, legacies that the greatest nation on earth as of today, you know, has built a solid foundation on.
True.
So these are nations that we need to emulate. These are individuals, people who, you know, were not thinking of self, but thought about society. These are people who are, you know, who should emulate. And remember what Chinua Achebe said the other day, that until we have leaders who will do away with their selfish interests and care more for the people, then we are doomed. You know, and the trouble with Nigeria, he went further to say that the problem with Nigeria is clearly a problem of leadership. So it tells you that the people we elect matters. Those who elect to be at the helm of affairs matters a lot. It will determine if you and I would continue to speak freely or not to be free after speaking. It will determine if water will flow from the tap at home. It will determine if you have 24/7 electricity. It will be determined if you continue to buy, you know, a bag of rice for 200,000 naira. So it matters who you elect. And when we elect the wrong people, sorry for us.
All right, that's our quote for the morning from Abraham Lincoln. The ballot is stronger than the bullet. We'll take a short break and then we'll get back, read out our weather updates for the morning. Stay with us.
Every day, your health shapes your life, your strength, your choices, your future. Because knowledge is the first step towards well-being.
This is Health Matters, only on Aneke TV.
You're still watching Sunrise here on Aneke TV. Next, we'll take a look at the weather report across major cities in the southeast today.
Good morning, Anambra State. The day in Anambra starts warm and slightly cloudy, with morning temperatures between 24 and 26 degrees Celsius. By afternoon, the weather may turn hot and humid, reaching 31 and 32 degrees Celsius. Expect thunderstorms and steady rain from late afternoon into the evening. The night will be cooler after the rain.
Good morning, Enugu, and welcome to the core city. The day in Enugu starts calm, cool, and refreshing, with morning temperatures of 23 to 24 degrees Celsius. Afternoon temperatures may likely rise to about 29 to 30 degrees Celsius. But increasing clouds will bring showers and thunderstorms later in the day. The evening will likely be cool and pleasant.
All right, the day in Ebonyi begins warm and bright, with morning temperatures of 24 to 26 degrees Celsius. Afternoon temperatures are likely to climb to 32 and 33, making it the hottest part of the southeast today. We are to expect heavy clouds, gusty winds, and thunderstorms before nightfall.
Good morning, Imo State, and welcome to the driving city of Owerri. The day in Imo State begins mild and cloudy, with temperatures around 23 to 25 degrees Celsius. The afternoon may likely feel warm and sticky, peaking at 30 to 31 degrees Celsius before rain and thunderstorms develop towards evening.
And in the city of Abia, Umuahia, the day starts warm with cloudy skies, as morning temperatures stay between 23 and 25 degrees Celsius. Afternoon highs of 30 to 31 are expected, followed by moderate rainfall and thunderstorms later in the day. Evening temperatures will likely settle around 23 to 24 degrees.
So, wherever you are in the southeast today, stay safe, Stay cool, dress light, do keep an umbrella handy. But remember, either rain or shine, we've got you covered. And these are your other reports here on Sunrise. We'll take a short break and we'll return with more updates. Stay with us, please.
You're welcome back. Now we're getting straight into our newspaper headlines and analysis for the morning. Now we're starting from the Guardian newspaper. The Guardian newspaper reads, legal distractions, intimidation, in quote, weakening opposition's 2027 contest. Intimidation, weakening opposition 2027 contest. Now, Obi alleges intimidation, fears for safety, ADC leadership crisis, SDP tussle add to opposition's legal troubles. Lawyers divided over court powers to revisit judgment. Experts warn disputes may derail opposition poll plans. With barely 6 months to the election, mounting court battles and lingering leadership crises across opposition parties have heightened fears that the All Progressives Congress could face a fractured and weakened challenge at the polls. And this is something that we've already, this paper this morning is just reaffirming something that we've often, highlighted here in the studios, where we've questioned the weight of the opposition parties or of the side opposition towards the coming elections. We've had litigations, we've had, deregistration threats, as we know it. We've seen parties having leadership tussles, not being recognized by government, not being recognized by law, in high courts coming. We've seen a whole lot. So this morning is just reaffirming, or maybe, now most recently, I think it was yesterday on the news, where there was a podcast, 2 days podcast, Peterobi was on, and he mentioned how he's received threats. How he's fearing, I think the papers have already stated it, he has alleged intimidation and fears for safety. Now, these are just ploys to get the opposition to cower in fear or to reduce the weight. I wouldn't say it's a direct, politically motivated, ploy to weaken the opposition from the ruling party. But then again, this further strengthens their claim to retaining major positions, to come back a second tenure. But I hope that with this, it's not uncommon in an election to have opposition parties come out to say, oh, we are being threatened, or the system does not support our existence. It is not unheard of. But we've seen in the trajectory of the 2027 lead-ups that there is a whole lot more that is playing out when it concerns the opposition party. And I just hope that with all of this, they are able to reconcile. Right? They're able to reconcile their differences, we still have the uploads that is scheduled to close up next week. So we still hope that, I think it's this Friday, tomorrow, or Saturday, I think it's Saturday. So we hope that they are able to reconcile their differences and create, at the part where they are, we still have Showere's case still pending. So I just hope they're able to reconcile their differences and set up this formidable force, so it doesn't look like we don't have an option or a solid, viable option as an opposition when it comes to the elections next year.
Yes, before I delve into this very conversation, as it has to do with the political parties and legal distraction towards the 2027 election, one thing is quite peculiar with the build-up to 2023 election, and it's quite saddening that we're beginning to, revert to the deteriorated sort of politics that we played in 2009, thereabouts, where there were heavy intimidation, there were evictions, and then you saw political motivated killings in Nigeria. But beyond the 2009 and moving forward, we are thinking that we've past, no, that's a 2000, the return to democracy in 1999, 2003, you know, moving forward to, was before the build-up to 2027 election, you know, our polity was characterized by political intimidation, politically motivated killings, you know, here and there. There were heavy division along different lines. But moving forward, beyond the election that brought in President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua and the rest of them going forward, we assume that we've covered mileages where there were less intimidation, there were less politically motivated murder, and we're thinking that our politics is becoming a little bit mature from what it used to be. But somehow, you know, in the build up to 2023 election, we did, you know, things got bad, and then we started, you know, reverting to the old fault lines. For the first time in 2023 election, you know, religion became a big issue. Tribe became bigger on the conversation, away from what we thought of, you know, moved away from, that we've gotten to a point where we will be able to look at and elect leaders that are not, you know, in tune or along those primordial sentiments, and that even moving forward, that people will be elected based on credibility, on their antecedents. But far from that, and that's part of the issues that has now continued to, you know, pour over into the build-up to 2027 election. And as a result of that, we've gotten to a politics where people want to, you know, be in office at all costs. You know, when people look at what has happened in the UK, where the Prime Minister, you know, has, you know, already resigned, and then is helping to, you know, bring the next administration into being before going home, I tell people that away from that, in our client, that doesn't happen. We still have that sit-tight syndrome in us, where, you know, the winner takes it all syndrome and mentality. Nobody wants to go home. People want to perpetuate themselves in office and remain in office. And these now continue to bring in schemes of different sorts, you know, for people to want to retain power. And those who find themselves, you know, not favored or not being appointed or being near corridors of power are scheming through various diverse means to see that they get into power, such hitting the polity. And now coming to the issue, it now begins to bring about the situation where you see that for the first time in our political history, we've not had this sort of litigation, you know, distracting political parties. You've seen serious contention leading to a situation where we are hoping on the courts, you know, on the judiciary to give direction to a lot of things. If one, you know, tracks back a bit, you will see, let's start with the Labour Party. Since after the 2023 election, they've been made in controversies. And when you track to PDP and across other political lines, there's always been one conversation that these are intentionally motivated, you know, legal tussles. When you see that there are no clear interpretation to issues, politicians are now upturning what, you know, the party constitution states as to the modalities of either transition in this or that, but everybody wants to go to court. And you saw that the Labour Party is no longer the party it used to be, you know, before, after the election, because they were made in crisis. And beyond that, you go to the PDP, there's one litigation or the other, you know, and today we do not, and nobody can speak categorically if the PDP can be on the ballot, and if they are to be on the ballot, you don't even know the faction of PDP that will be on the ballot. And perhaps if a faction of the PDP is on the ballot, and somehow, and we know it's not likely for the PDP as of today to be able to bring about a president, you know, to bring about a president for Nigeria like it held sway several years, but it doesn't have the capacity as at this moment, and I can boldly speak to that. So, should they go ahead and for peradventure Nigerians, you know, favors them, and then a political leader emerges from there to be a Nigerian president, that too will be made in litigation, because there's already landmines. Away from the PDP, then we have seen the current situation where there are litigations of, you know, the registration of political parties, where there are registration beyond the ABC. We are seeing the situation now with the NDC. So that in itself doesn't even allow political parties to settle down and map out road plans, towards the 2027 election. And this is just to mention but a few. Beyond that, there are a whole lot of issues when you look at our legal system and our constitution and electoral acts as it has to do with INEC and the relationship with political parties. We've seen that, yes, where there are many political parties across line, which is not bad, but we've come to have a lot of special purpose vehicles being utilized by politicians at will to cause some of these, what I describe as chaos, that would deter us from transiting to a proper democracy in terms of having a proper election that one will say to be free, fair, and credible. And look at the political parties. Though at the end of the day, I still not, carry the blame outside these political parties. Somehow, I put the blame some sort of at the doorstep of the opposition political parties themselves. Because for me, the way I understand politics to be and the sort of opposition alliances and political parties that I've studied through history is such that you should be prepared to outmaneuver your opponents irrespective of what is thrown at you. But this time around, it seems that we'll have an opposition that is not willing, to go the length or the mile. People are very much bent on self-preservation. We do not have political opposition at this time who are willing and ready to pay the ultimate price for them to realize an ambition or the goal of their political party or transition Nigeria from the ideal, to the real. So everyone is, yes, we want to make a statement, we want to contest for election, but there's nobody who is willing, to stand bold and challenge the status quo without fear of either what will come out of it. You decide peterobi in this regard, who is now beginning to talk about intimidation. What would one expect in a climate like ours? That yes, intimidation has been a very political tool over the past. Is it in order? No. Is it right? No. But it's been there. So whoever must come to knock on the door of leadership should be ready and be prepared, because those will come. And we did see the mayhem that characterized the 2023 election, and I would be surprised if people are thinking that moving to the next election that we won't have situations in that magnitude or nature that would spearhead lead into the 2027 election itself. So when we raise this alarm and all that, yes, they are real and they are quite related to our situation, but beyond that, one should expect a robust opposition that is so meticulous in its planning to outwit its opponent. And in most cases, you see that when we point fingers to the ruling political party, but who are the individuals that are being used? They are still members of this various political party. But away from that, a lot is rested on our judiciary to set the right precedent. And that is why I am gladdened more often when I see the judiciary throw away some of these politically motivated cases out, for lack of jurisdiction, that there are political internal issues of political parties and should be settled, on political front, and rather than resort to the judiciary. And we saw the last one where they had to award costs, even find the lawyers to one of the litigants in that very issue. And this is the way to go, to set a clear example and roadmap so that we can have a polity that is so sane, clean, and then have a clear roadmap to where we are going in this very regard. And beyond this, when you look at the shenanigans that brought about the electoral reform, you see that all these landmines are so heavily planted that we can't shy away from it. And I will not forgive the opposition for not living up to their bidding, especially when it mattered most at the period where we are dealing with the Electoral Act. They were not so detailed to see beyond the issue of not just transmission in real time, but other landmines that are inbuilt in that electoral reform, leading to where we are at present, that there are a whole lot of litigations in court, both against the INEC and amongst the political parties.
Okay, that's this is quite a lot, but we'll have more conversations to look at this morning. We'll take a short break. We'll be right back.
Obodo ọbụla nwere akụkọ, aka mgbe ọbụla nwere ihe butere ya, nsogbu ọbụla kwesịrị inwe ogbugbo, site n'ọchịchị ruo mmepe obodo, site na nchekwa ruo na mmụta, site n'omenala ruo na akụnụba. A na-ewepụta okwu ndị ahụ na-emetụta anyị ma leba ha anya. Ọ bụ ohere n'okwu gị dịka a na-ajụ ajụjụ ma na-enweta ọsịsa ajụjụ ndị ahụ. Ọ bụ ihe mmemme a na-ele anya n'okwu ndị ahụ metụtara anyị ya na ọdịnihu a chọrọ iwulite. Sonyere Joshua Ozioko na Otobo dịka ọ ga-akpọta ndị ọnụ na-eru n'okwu, ndị ma ha ekwe na-akụ nakwa ọha na eze, ka ha tinye ọnụ n'okwu ndị ahụ gbasara anyị niile. Otobo maka inweta ozi ndị ahụ bara ezigbo uru. Ọ na-abịara gị kwa ụbọchị Tuesday na Friday ma ọkụ elekere 5 nke uhuruchi na Aneke TV. Otobo maka ọdịmma anyị niile.
You're welcome back. Now we are currently joined by our analyst that will help us look into the conversations for the morning.
Yes, Mr. Emeka Odom, a communication development expert, joining us to analyze with deeper insight on these news issues. Mr. Emeka, it's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. Good morning.
Good morning. You're welcome. Now, we're getting back into the stories. We're looking next at the Punch headline. The headline reads, 2027 elections, 6 legal hurdles before INEC. 6 legal hurdles before INEC. Now, barely 6 months after the Independent National Electoral Commission unveiled its revised timetable and schedule of activities, this electoral body has become embroiled in a wave of litigation that could reshape the country's electoral cycle. We have the NDC regulation, we have the youth party challenging the INEC's timetable, we have the SDP contesting nomination deadlines, we have the appeal court to settle INEC timetable disputes, we have suits seeking the registration of 5 political parties, we have registration of NDC being questioned, and of course ADC and court orders battled the registration at appeal court. So these are the 6 legal disruptions that INEC is currently facing before these elections.
Yes, with very due respect to all the other all the other organizations and entities that have 1 or 2 issues to settle with INEC, with due respect to them, because they have the right to do so. Our laws are very clear. When you feel different on any policy decision or program of government, you have the right to approach a constitutionally constituted court of competent jurisdiction. So that's what these organizations have done. But the particular reference here, to the suit challenging, I think at the appeal court, challenging the electoral timetable by INEC, and I think that is very, very instructive. You see, it's good that these issues are being tested in court. The only regret we have here is that, if you look at the time frame before elections, even though somebody may tell you that, look, when else again is better, because it's almost 6 months or even more than 6 months before election. So a lot can still be done. Issues can still be trashed. Yes, but the most important thing here is that these organizations, for me, I feel that holding government accountable. I mean, when we talk about government now, government and their various institutions, no one individual is called government anyway. No single institution is called government. Government is a conglomerate of various agencies that have come together, that the executive also have put together to carry out government activities. So the essence of holding them accountable, or rather the true meaning of holding government accountable, is sometimes to question some of these decisions that government agencies come up with. Now, INEC has a constitutional responsibility to organize elections in Nigeria in a manner that is, free, fair, credible, and unbiased. So, in doing so, they also have a constitutional mandate, to come up with program of action. The constitution has also, even though we have a constitution, we have an electoral act, all of these 2 bodies, all of this body of laws, have also given them the leverage to put together a regulation, where it does not because the Constitution itself and the Electoral Act definitely cannot spell out everything item by item. So there's a considerable leverage that's granted to INEC by this body of laws to make what is called regulations on how to conduct the election. For instance, in 2023 general elections, when INEC came up to say, look, when elections are conducted in the polling booth and the results sorted out, counted, and entered into Form EC8A. Now, that Form EC8A, that is the primary result sheet at the polling center. Now, that should be uploaded into the INEC IREV through the beavers, right? Now, that was a regulation. It's not in the. It wasn't in the Constitution. It wasn't in the Electoral Act. So that was a regulation by INEC, which the law allows. And as long as INEC has made such laws, so long as that it doesn't impede, or stand on the way of either the Electoral Act or the Constitution, it's acceptable. So, in this instance now, in its quest to conduct the 2027 general elections, INEC has come up with a timetable which falls under the regulations. And some parties have taken task INEC to say, look, some of these regulations you're giving is contrary to the provision of the Electoral Act. You can't give us such abridged deadlines. You can't shorten where the law has completely and totally, specified. So that is the essence of the conflict. And so for me, I believe that is a good step in the right direction. It allows the parties, and that is even for individuals too. Even for individuals, we must, I want to imagine that in civilized democracies, in civilized, very well developed, we are all civilized anyway, so let me not, assume anybody not to be civilized. But in more advanced democracies, you don't just take people for granted. You don't make laws because you find yourself, on a particular seat behind a big table in a big office where you are asked to, undertake some assignments. And whatever you say there, you expect that people must accept it hook, line, and sinker. No! You must do things that are in line with the laws, with the extant rules. So, for me, I applauded the youth party also, who went to court in the absence of, or in the silence of even the bigger parties. They went to court, and that also takes me. Citizens must learn to hold government accountable, and holding government accountable includes querying decisions. And how do you query decisions? Go to court. Let them come and explain. They are not always right. And of course, we had the judgment of the High Court, the Court of First Instance on this matter, before INEC decided to go to appeal. Now, I don't even know why INEC should go to appeal, but they have the right to do so, because in their own judgment, they feel that, look, what we have done is right, and we need to do this in order to get the elections. So let them go and explain to the courts. The court will look at it. And even if at the Court of Appeal, whichever way the judgment goes, if the other party feels different, they can also approach the Supreme Court. And this thing should be expedited so that we have a good enough time to conduct the election. And this should be encouraged, because I am speaking about this because we shouldn't see it as dragging back the wheel of progress. No, that's not what it means. If for anything, each time a piece of rule, legislation, whatever thing it is, policy of government is challenged in court, it is purely a sign of progress, and it makes our democracy and public governance stronger. Because if that matter goes to court and comes back, there's more confidence. It's part of development.
Sorry, Mr. Meka, let me come in a bit. INEC has gone ahead to challenge that position of the lower court in that regard, and arguing that the court now limits its constitutional and statutory powers to regulate election by not allowing it to be able to set time frames and timetables for election?
INEC will, I don't believe in that. I don't believe in that. If the court thinks that INEC has acted ultra vires is a legal language, you know, that used to describe when an individual or an agency of government or any institution or any organization has acted above its powers or beyond its powers. It's declared ultra vires. And when you act within your powers, it is called intra vires. So it is the judicial language. So if the court feels INEC has acted ultra vires, so be it. INEC is a creation of the law, and whatever thing they are doing, no matter how good intention, no matter how nice, no matter the level of their ingenuity, they must act within what the law has permitted them. If the law says that, look, give parties 3 months to complete ABC assignment, you can't abridge it. You must act within that time frame. So, and the INEC cannot interpret law more than a court of competent jurisdiction. So the whole idea that courts is tying their hands or preventing them, that for me, that argument is parboiled. You know, it's not dumb. Act within what the law. You are a creation of the law. Act within what the law has said. You should do. So if the law says that you should give parties 3 weeks or 3 months or 1 day to prepare, you can't cut it short. If there are other challenges you have, if other arms of government or from other quarters you have been dragged back, the parties cannot bear the brunt. You go back to those agencies that if for instance fund was not released to you, I'm just giving an example, fund was not released to you at the appropriate time to enable you, take actions in ABC, and eventually when the fund was released, you find out that you are now choked up with time. The parties can and the candidates cannot be they can't be the ones to pay the price. So you go back to where the fund ought to come from. Cry out loud and say, look, you are making our job difficult by not releasing this fund. That is that's the meaning of being independent.
All right, Mr. Baker, just for the sake of clarity, one, looking at this issue of ambiguities, in our constitution or the Electoral Act that has created this crisis. For example, you just cited one where INEC, allowed for the from EC8A to be, uploaded through beavers and all that, and later the court went ahead to proclaim that a regulation of INEC, outside the Electoral Act. The question now remains, how do we begin to reconcile the fact that the Electoral Act gives INEC the power to make regulations, and automatically such regulations driving its power from the Electoral Act and the Constitution that, instituted INEC. Now, those regulations should be seen to be the position of law as well.
Yeah, in this particular instance, yes, what you said is correct. Like I said before, that look, because the law has given INEC a good leverage. You have the Constitution, you have the Electoral Act. They've given, because they cannot, because these are limited documents. They can't just specify everything and itemize everything, in total. So they have given the institution that has the responsibility to carry out these functions the leverage, to be able to make rules and regulations. And so when they make such rules and regulations, it becomes law. That is correct. And I don't think that nothing has been taken away from that. Using the particular case scenario, you cited, which I referred to earlier on, the issue of uploading of result sheets EC8A from the polling unit. You see, what happened is this: INEC made that regulation, right? And so when INEC was not able to keep that regulation that they self-made. So you need to understand the sequence. When INEC failed to keep to that law that they made, now people wanted to hold them, pin them down on it, to say, look, the parties now and the various interest groups say, look, you made this law, you made this regulation by yourself, so why didn't you keep to it? And now, maybe because of, we do not know, because we are yet to find out. Maybe because of other reasons, it could be nocturnal reasons, right? It could be intentional deceit. I don't know, because
up to now, we are yet to know. So, INEC went to court. When the matter came up in court, in order for INEC to escape that, that legal net, they came up with the argument that, yes, we promised this, but this is what the Electoral Act has said. So the Electoral Act did not make it compulsory. So even if we fail to keep that, it is only a moral issue and not a legal issue. So it can't pin us down to it. I don't know if you understand the argument. It's just like when I come here now to say, look, for instance, if the law says that, look, if anybody that's sitting on this seat, right, must tell everybody good morning 3 times when you wake up in the morning. You must shake hands with everybody 3 times before you leave the room. And of course, the person sitting down on this seat can also make additional promises. Now, in order to follow that last, proviso, that he can make additional promises, and I make additional promise to say, not only that I will say good morning to everybody 3 times, I will shake hands with everybody 3 times that the laws have said, I will also smile at everybody 3 times before I leave. Now, if I wake up in the morning for whatever reasons,
you don't feel like,
either because you people have annoyed me, or for whatever reasons, or I don't feel like any longer, I don't have the mood again, or I'm prevented, whatever may be the reason, and I fail to smile. Now you take me to court to say, look, you told her that you are going to smile 3 times before you leave, but you left her without smiling. Therefore, you have contravened the law. Now, in order for me to escape, and I come to you and say, well, yes, I may have said so, but I only fulfilled what the law said I should do. I didn't. There's no law that says anywhere that says that I should smile at 3 people. It was only a regulation I made. It's not written down in the law. I shouldn't be pinned down to it. And the court looked at it and said, yes, we have looked at the law, because the laws are going to look at the court are going to look at the matter based on the court will look at the matter and say, well, the issue of the smile was a promise I just made, and it's possible it was based on some certain conditions, and that was what happened.
Sorry to digress. Is this how politicians escape the promises they make? And
a certain politician in this country came out in a public place to say that a promise is like a wind; it changes direction. This was what he said.
But shouldn't a man be held by what he said?
Of course. See, in this country we are very religious people. We are very religious people, and one of the religious books says that a man is ensnared by the words of his mouth, and he says, "Let your yea be your yea, and let your nay be your nay." So that is why today, I mean, the truth of the matter is that politicians have very minimal credibility in terms of public trust.
No, but there's no way we can hold them accountable. There's no contract beyond the social contract of promises and keeping.
No, you see, the truth is that, and that's what we talk about. We can still hold them accountable, because if a man has disappointed you today, he has disappointed you once, disappointed you twice. I mean, let's use the commonest example. Let's use the commonest example. If you have a woman, if you're a young man, you have a woman you probably want to spend the rest of your life with. And you come to her to make all kinds of promises, and you say, I will do this, I will do that, and all the things you promised you didn't keep. I mean, at the preliminary level you didn't keep. You come back again, she gives you another chance, you fail her. She comes back the 3rd time. I mean, you come back the 3rd time, she still decides to believe in you, and you fail her. I mean, if the man comes the 4th time, if you are a senior brother to that young lady, what will you advise the young lady?
Is your head penning you?
So beyond,
and that is what the Nigerian people are not doing.
Beyond using our vote to hold them to account, either reward them for service well done or remove them, you can't take a politician to court for not keeping the promises he made.
To a certain degree you can still. You see, the thing is that even if the promises he made on the soapbox, that issue has come up several times to say, look, promises that were made on the soapbox, on campaign ground, are they justiciable? This issue, I know that this matter has come up several times in public domains, are they justiciable? And at the end of the day, I do not think at the temple of justice that these matters probably will fly, right? But that's not even the issue now, because the ample opportunity we have, and is a potent one, is that even if we can't take them to, even if we can't hold them accountable at the temple of justice, what about at the court of public opinion and morality? You find out even the people themselves have not even done what they should do. But why do we still vote them into power? Even when they have failed us, we still continue to vote them into power. Not to talk of even we don't need to take them to court. If a politician makes you a promise and he doesn't fulfill his promise, you don't need to take them to court, because even some of the things that the constitution has even asked them to do, many of them are not doing it. Many of them are not doing it. You see, because when the constitution says that the welfare and security of the citizens shall be the primary function of government, how many is there in the constitution? How many people have taken them to court on the issue of welfare and security? And the question to ask is even the issue of welfare, the way it is coined in the constitution, is it justiciable? So let's even leave the issue of dragging them at the legal courts. What about issues of morality? Ordinarily, when a politician has failed you, the next thing is that you vote the politician out. But we don't do that. We still fall cheaply each time. Each time the young man comes to the lady to make empty promises, somehow the lady falls again. And it's been happening over and over and over and over again. So sometimes you continue to worry. Who even has the problem here? Is it the young man or the lady? And that is why some people are. That is why a political philosopher, I think it's Thomas Hobbes, that says, look, a people get the kind of government that they rightly deserve.
The story of Nigeria.
Okay, now to the next story. This is, you earlier mentioned fundings. This is our next story. This is from the Daily Sun. Commotion in House of Reps over motion to summon Tinubu. Lawmakers kick against plan to suspend constituency project. Commotion enveloped the House of Representatives plenary yesterday as lawmakers clashed over a motion seeking to summon President Bola Tinubu to explain delays in the implementation of the 2025 Appropriation Act. This motion was predicated upon the inability of the executive to fund the 2024, 2025, and 2026 budgets, despite the appropriation and approvals from the National Assembly, and hence requested or raised a motion that the president be invited to explain. Thereby, the Speaker Abbas turned it down, saying it is not parliamentary approved to invite the president for such question.
You see, what we were taught all over the world, what we were taught at the elementary level of even government is that the three arms of government hold each other accountable, and by checking each other, acting as checks and balances to each other. And how does the executive, how does the legislature, hold the executive accountable and act as a checks and balance? One of the ways that we know is from time to time, the legislature can invite the executive to come and explain, some of its actions, programs, and policies. This is what we have known before now. But surprisingly, in the last administration, our own National Assembly came up with a theory that the legislature does not have the power to summon Mr. President. That became, and you see, this is what we talk about, that leaders take actions or make pronouncements without understanding the consequences, or rather without thinking very deep about the consequences. Elsewhere all over the world, legislatures invite the president. I know very clearly, if you look at a place like America, it has happened several. We might not even talk about Britain, because you could say, okay, each time the prime minister is in the house, after all, that is his natural domain. He in the first and foremost, is an elected legislature. So going to the parliament once in a while shouldn't mean anything. But what about in an executive, in a presidential system? We have seen several times, you see the American president being summoned by the Senate to come and explain one or two things. Is one of the ways through which the executive and the legislature maintain interaction, checks each other, and smoothens the will of government business. Because when the president goes there to explain, the legislators understand better. There's an interaction. But here, they told us last year, and that was the precedent that was set. And I can tell you that it's very possible that even if the House had gone ahead to approve that motion, probably nothing would have happened. Is that it probably will not be respected because there's already a precedent where the House has, and you now saw the speaker making reference to that the House does not have the. You see, these are the issues. But beyond all that, again also on this note, sometimes I struggle to find a support within me for the legislature. Maybe yes. Maybe there's an element of support in me for the legislature, but I struggle to situate it within the confines of this present 10th Assembly. Why? Because these were people that came up and even composed a song for us. On your mandate, we shall stand. So what has happened to whatever is happening in this administration is part of the mandate, and so they should stand very firmly on it. I saw on a Blikweche, vibrating in the house. I saw him on television vibrating in the house and talking about. So where are they when they were singing and making a commitment that on your mandate we shall stand? It's part of the mandate. So let them stand very firmly on it.
All right. Beyond this issue of so many Mr. President, is another issue of a constitutional constituency project in this regard.
That's what I'm saying now. The Mr. President has not. He has.
My question is: should we continue to uphold this constituency project or jettison it?
No, you see, it's neither here nor there. It is neither here nor there, and I will tell you, I had the privilege of serving as National Assembly correspondent. When I was one of the national dailies in Abuja, very briefly I was a National Assembly correspondent, and that afforded me the opportunity to interact with a lot of legislators, a lot of legislators, and even their legislative assistants and aides, and it gave me a further insight into the legislature, the workings of the legislature and their business. And let me tell you, one of the most criticized, and I stand to say this anywhere, one of the most criticized, misunderstood, and wrongly perceived arm of government in this our democracy has been the legislature. And if you will allow me time, I will explain to you. Number one, a lot of people don't know that the symbol of democracy is the legislature.
Okay.
Out of the three arms of government, that is the singular symbol of democracy. Not even Mr. President, not even the executive. Yes, he may be elected. Now, if you look at it, let me begin with this. In the entire gamut of the judiciary, which is another arm of government, I don't want to call it the third arm because between the executive, legislature, and I don't want to say this one is the first, this one is so. They are all arms of government. But if you look at the judiciary today, not even one person there was elected by the people. Is that right or wrong?
Sure.
Good. Now, when you come to the executive, if you look at the entire gamut of executives, including the civil service, because the civil service is the arm of the executive, only one man, even if you take the civil service away and leave only the presidency and all the paraphernalia, including the ministers, the DGs that were appointed, all the political appointees, only one man was elected. Only one man. Therefore, no person dare oppose the president, because you are whatever post you are occupying there, you are occupying there at his mercy, right?
Yes.
So, where does the democracy lie there? Beyond the fact that he was elected. That is why there can never be a diverse opinion in the executive. Then you come to the legislature. When you come to the legislature, there are 100 9 senators and about 260 something, is it 64 or so? House of Rep members. Now, if you put their number together, that is the total number of opinions that exist in that place. Not minding the fact once in a while, you know, they could harmonize. That is the reason why democracy dwells there. Now, the constituency you talk about, today, many people talk about this. Almost everybody knows the salary of the National Assembly member, but nobody knows the salary of the senators. I mean, the salary of the executive members, the ministers.
Oh yeah.
You know how many aides that the senator or a House of Reps should have? You don't know the one that a minister has. You only know the convoy of a senator. Do you know the number of vehicles in the convoy of a minister? Nobody knows. The allowances, nobody knows. Only the one of senators that we know, because that's the one that is in the public domain. So when you now look at all of these things together, you now come to the issue of the constituency projects. These constituency projects you talk about, yes, once in a while there may be tendency of an abuse. We don't take that away, given the Nigerian context. But the truth is that there are many communities today. Many communities in Nigeria today. I'm a journalist and I've traveled. The only element of development you will see there is probably a street light that was installed by either the honorable covering that constituency or a borehole. Now, yes, if you investigate well, it could just be a small piece of cake of the bigger cake that the honorable has collected. He may have collected the bigger cake, even bigger than this table, and cut out a little piece that's smaller than this mobile phone to the community. But the community is happy because that is the only element that they can see. And that is why when the governor, when the honorable member or the senator goes there, you see women who line up in the streets, clapping under the sun and under the rain to welcome him. But in the absence of that, what have they gotten? When the local government system is not functioning well, when probably the state has not, because of the enormous responsibilities in the hands of the governor, he has not been able to, probably have time for such communities. So for me, there's nothing wrong in the constituency project. The only thing is that if there's any means through which it can be the implementation and the oversight can be enhanced, it is welcomed. It is welcomed. But I can tell you that at the end of the day, it is geared to, if the constituency projects are well implemented, it is all to the benefit of people at the grassroots. It helps to bring development further down to people at the grassroots if it is well implemented. So for me, you don't throw away the baby and the bad water.
You don't throw away the baby and the bad water.
Yes, what the government should do is to find ways to do what to further strengthen the process of implementation and to make sure that, look, these constituency projects, when it is given, I had the privilege, let me quickly tell you, I had the privilege of being on the train with my former organization, when we were undertaking advocacy visits. Part of our advocacy at that point in time, it was a dangerous one, is to go to communities. When we followed some of these politicians at the soapbox when they were making promises during campaign. When they will say, I will do this, we go to their constituency, we'll go to the nooks and crannies of their constituency in search of votes. I will do this, I will do that. So we collect this and we collect them. Now, when they enter into office, when the electorate enter into office, we start tracking them, start following them. We say, sometimes we write a letter, say, on our own, we visit the community.
To check
6 months after, 1 year after, 2 years after, depending on what you promised. We visit the community to see whether you have done what you have done. If you discover you have not done, we write a letter to you, say, distinguished senator, we record that during the campaign period, you promised this community that you are going to give them borehole or build a hospital or attract this or attract that, within 6 months. This is 1 year and 6 months. They have not done anything. So what is happening? Any hope for it? So many of them didn't find our job very comfortable, right? And of course, many of us ran away from that job because we still have very young families that we want to be there for them. So, but But we also saw many other communities that you go to that place and the communities are full of praises for their representative, either senator or honorable member in the State House of Assembly, who will tell you that, look, this borehole that is feeding the entire community and everybody coming to draw water from was brought by so and so person. Go to Kogi State and see what Senator Natasha is doing to her people. So I don't think that, you know, all we need to do is to strengthen, you know, where we perceive some discrepancies and dishonesty, or, you know, let's strengthen it, but not to say the constituency project is in other clients. They are there. They are there. We took a look at 1, 2, 3 countries. We discovered that even the legislature, these things it didn't start from here.
All right. You know, a lot of promises are made during those periods. I will water you, I will fire you, a lot of them and all that. But be as it may, we will expand the conversation around this issue, because you know that there are very deep interests, especially as it has to do with Nigerian people when it comes to constituency projects.
I agree with you. I agree with you because I agree with you, because if you also, there are also some other stories where, like you said, a lot of interest, a whole lot of interest, and sometimes people have tendency to believe that it has become a pipe.
A big conduit pipe.
All right, we'll take a short break. We'll be going right into a sports analysis and a review for this morning. We'll be right back.
The Insight with Uche Osai.
Having the political will to confront whatever is the challenges.
Igbo man wrestles with
the tortoise that had a lot of ingenuity, a lot of ideas, and the tireless.
It will take the broad mind of government in power to say, let there be electoral reform, no matter whose ox is God.
I was there. We did everything. All of us came and supported him with our last blood.
In-depth analysis, expert views, real voices, uncover the stories shaping Nigeria today. Deep dive, honest, unfiltered, only on The Insight with Uche Osai on Aneke TV. Join us.
In a world that never stands still, where stories break in seconds and moments shape history, one station keeps you connected to your nation, to the continent, to the world.
From breaking news to powerful stories, from business and politics to culture, lifestyle and entertainment, we inform, we inspire, we keep you ahead.
This is more than television. This is your window to everywhere that matters.
Aneke TV. Move with the world.
In every generation, there exists a defining force. A force shaped by curiosity, driven by ambition, fueled by possibility. Where ideas evolve into innovation, skills transform into enterprise, and vision becomes impact. Because empowerment is more than progress. It is transformation. The voices shaping tomorrow. The idea redefining possibilities. The generation building the future.
We're joined by sports oracle himself to give us updates from the World Cup and other sports. Good Hope Chupuma. The sports oracle.
I mean, they're trying to rev it up. Well, there's nothing so much happening than the World Cup quarterfinal that's going to take place this evening. Talking about France facing Morocco, and you know from the stats it has been over and over again where both of them have met. And even France have not been able to win a lot of Morocco. But then we're going to see what happens tonight. While we're also talking about the officiating, that you have the men who are going to officiate, and I'm talking about the referees this evening, are going to be from Argentina. So are we saying that we're going to have, yesterday I was asking this question, Argentine referees are going to, officiate the game, and seeing that it's going to be final, that we are looking up to having France versus Argentina just in the final. That's what I'm seeing, and that's what I think may play out. But also talking about Africa, talking about Morocco going there to represent us at this stage tells you that Morocco is the best in Africa. And I will tell you that even if Senegal would still hold out that trophy, it is proven that Morocco is the best. Now, Morocco is one of the elite teams you will ever see playing at the world stage. Of course, Senegal really did their best. They had everything, and they have everything. Talking about the likes of Saïd, Melissa, Mane, having the likes of Kone and the rest of them. They have great players who has played and who has really touched that World Cup stage. But right now, we're talking about Morocco, and their coach has come out to say they are going to just representing Morocco, not Africa. That statement has shifted. It has raised a lot of concern. If we're still talking about that issue that happened at the AFCON, or we're still talking about what is going on, talking about what's going to happen tonight, Mr. Sodom.
You see, let me begin from the last submission. And I think that this is part of the challenge that Africa has had over time. And unfortunately, they are not able to overcome it. And that also takes me down to, even though you didn't make reference to it, the match between Egypt and Argentina.
Okay.
Now, I don't see the reason why Morocco should say that they're going to. Yes, of course, they're wearing the colors of Morocco. They came in there as Morocco because countries came individually. But as it is, I think that the advantage they have now is that being the only African country standing, they should be appealing for African support, because whether you like it or not, support has a role to play in football. You may say it's minimal, but support has a role to play in football, because in that stadium there are going to be, human beings, fans all over who are there. And I can also tell you that a lot of Africans are going to be there, whether they are Africans whether they are African Europeans and African Americans, whoever they are going to be in that pitch. And even in France itself, France is a country that a lot of black Africans are there, and so one would have expected Morocco to cash in on that appeal to say, look, the Africa must be hard, Africa must go far, Africa must stand a place, and things like that. And that is where you see the power of the fans, the power of the spectators. But unfortunately, instead of draw from that, they are already creating an alienation by saying that, look, they are going there from Morocco and things like that. But that is on one side. Talking about the artistry itself, France is one of the favorites in this competition. There's no doubt about that. If you recall, the first time we talked about this, at the time they were still in the group stages, I said I tipped 4 countries to see them in the finals. France is one of them, Brazil one of them, Spain one of them, and Argentina. Unfortunately, Brazil has gone home. 3 of the countries are still there. And I still stand by, what I said, that one of those countries is definitely going to lift this World Cup. I said that from what I've seen them play. Now, the pattern of Morocco and the French football, there's really not much difference, because North Africans they find a home in France. Talking about mainly Algeria, Morocco, they find a Tunisia, they find a place in France. So some other people have even said that, look, the French team is an extension of an African team and things like that. But the truth is that it's going to be a very tough match. Yeah. Morocco is a very good team in Africa. Remember at the last World Cup, they almost got to the semi-finals. At the last Nations Cup, they played in the finals, and of course we saw all that happen. And this time around, they are where they are. And so it's going to be an evening of good football, and I look forward to having a good football. But let me speak very briefly on the French and the Argentina and the Egyptian game, because you made a reference to officiating. Look, I don't know why we keep, this is an African thing. Yes, FIFA itself has told you that these referees are human beings.
They are not computers, and that is why they are trying to invent a computer system as a support, and that's why they say the video assistant referee, right? To offer support. Let's bring a non-human now to offer support to the referees themselves. Now, I've heard all kinds of, in the social media, people have talked about the Egyptian and Argentina match, and I looked at that game, and I hope they don't come to say the same thing. I don't know who's going to win tonight's game, but whichever way it goes, I hope they don't come to say the same thing. Because if you look at football, African problem has mainly remained the same.
You'll be winning.
You'll be winning. See, football is not done. The game is not done until the referee gives you the final whistle. You don't lose hope. You're playing a team like an Argentina.
Relaxing. If you can be a moment of relaxation at all, and then you have the god of soccer and the football pitch with you. You keep.
Messi is a player that can still surprises until the very last minute. If you recall, in 1994 World Cup in the same USA, Nigeria was at the verge of playing in the quarterfinals. We were in the round of 16. I think it was it Baggio or Franco Baresi who Nigeria was doing well. That was a golden team of Nigeria. Yeah. Just less than 5 minutes to the end of the game, because Nigeria lost concentration, Iguavo came and gave that hard tackle to, was it Franco Baresi or Baggio, and that was the penalty that resulted in our exit. So African countries must learn to hold on. You're playing it, whether you like it or not. Argentina is
a form.
No matter how we want to, air our views on this very issue, we can't continue to, harp on referee errors all the time. And I ask, the goals that Argentines score, were they not clean goals enough? You shouldn't have allowed that go in. And you have a player like Messi, and one thing is that we don't study even our opponents. You say that Messi, people would argue that he throws the field. I say, go and study Messi. He doesn't play. Usually doesn't play across 15 minutes to 20 minutes of every match. He takes his time observing or studying, understanding the loop post, knowing the opponent. Then the next minute, he's praising two surprises.
Exactly. When you think he has already become useless
in the pitch. And people will be saying, well, Messi is not in this game, Messi is not playing anything. Look, and then he's praised that just a touch, and he gives you either a pass that will lead to a goal, or he's playing the post.
His biggest threat is assist. Yes, he scored his goals, but
another correction here. Okay. You were citing about the controversy between Senegal and Morocco, who is the best team. Let me tell you, in this moment, Senegal is no longer in the tournament. So automatically, Morocco becomes a better team.
Okay. Because they are not the best.
Now, when Nigeria and Senegal, which one is the best? Nigeria did not go to World Cup. Senegal was in the World Cup. So you can't compare. The fundamentals may be different. That Nigeria is a strong, better footballing nation, but this is World Cup finals, and the best of the nations are there. You're not there. So Morocco is there right now.
Let's go down to the scores this evening. Who are you expecting to scale through? I mean, it's already an expectation. Maybe people have.
For France and Morocco, honestly, the fact that Morocco is the last standing
of Africa.
But I am compelled to give a little bit of my support. But now that they've come out to say that they are not playing for Africa,
they're playing for Morocco.
My worry with tonight's game, it's not that Morocco won't play well. Morocco will play well. They have demonstrated to us in this competition that they can hold their own. But my worry is holding on to the discipline to the last whistle. That's why
the African syndrome.
You don't lose. You see, because the French team is they are very coherent.
And
they are very good.
It's an African
they play physical football. They play physical football.
They play mental.
Yes. So holding on to having that mentality, that mindset that look, we need to drive this to the end. It's not when things are going for you. A French team, this is a World Cup. French is a World Cup winner. I mean, France is a World Cup winner, and any country that has won a World Cup
has that mentality of
that is the spirit is there. So I wish them well.
They have to go for 90 minutes. Unfortunately, I wouldn't want France to advance because I have my own a team. I want to see Messi lift this very tournament.
You guys are seeing what's happening.
This very tournament.
Everybody's about to have
beyond that, I just believe and hope that Morocco will have the capacity, the tenacity to see this match through. But in all, You wouldn't expect.
I mean,
You wouldn't expect France to come into this match.
You wouldn't
wanting to give up for.
You won't expect France to come into this match.
It would be a huge win for them if Morocco qualify.
It will be a miracle.
It will be a miracle. They might not end up winning the World Cup. Yes, they might not end up winning the World Cup.
France actually has a better.
But then France is.
You know that. You see, the truth is that this 2026 World Cup has thrown up a lot of surprises. Of course, football is like what they will tell you. World Cup is like what they will tell you. The boys will always have their say, and the generals will have their way. Yes, we have come to that point where I don't want to use the word smaller team, but if you look at the World Cup history, you can't help but say smaller teams will come to make their mark and make their impressions. But eventually, the big boys of the World Cup will always, and it's only once in a while that one big boy is added to the group. Once after much trials, one big boy is added. So that's how Spain came in 2010, and that was how France also came in this. So, but eventually, in this game we are seeing now, quite frankly, I don't see a new entrant playing in the finals.
Like I rightfully said, I was hoping and waiting for a Messi World Cup again, but my fear is that there is a Viking, there's a Viking that is knocking at the door as well.
And there's also it's sweet. There's also
you should also remember
England is still.
You should also remember that there's a business aspect of the football.
Yes.
You see, I remember very well in 1985. Let me tell you, 1985, when Nigeria won the maiden edition of the Kodak Under-17 World Cup, right? Now, 2 years later, when Nigeria came up to the competition again, and FIFA at that point in time confessed that, look, the sponsors, Kodak at that time, the Kodak film, they were very honest to say, look, we didn't make much sales. We didn't make as much as we expected to make, because we were not expecting that a country like Nigeria would win the World Cup, the Junior World Cup, the Under-17 World Cup. So sometimes when you also the money that FIFA share as appearance fees, these monies are gotten from marketing rights, and so FIFA also wants
make money.
So sometimes let's also be very understanding. I'm not saying that the matches should be a sell away. No, that's bad. But let's also know that
there's a business side.
Everybody has a preference.
Everybody has to get something. All right, that's a wrap here on the morning show. Thank you for sitting with us up to this moment. Till we come your way again, same time tomorrow. I am Princess Ken Ochoma.
And to the Sports Oracle, Mr. Goodhope, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Mekodom, it's always a pleasure having you here on Sunrise.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
And to you, our wonderful viewers, I am Uche Osai, saying thank you for watching, and keep watching till we come your way same time tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Depression is more than sadness. It is a medical condition that affects thoughts, emotion, and daily functioning. Many people struggle silently, masking their pains with smiles or business. This silence often makes the battle harder. Recognizing symptoms like fatigue, isolation, and loss of interest is an important first step. Depression is not a sign of weakness. It is a health challenge that requires care and understanding. Just like any illness, it deserves proper attention. Help exists through therapy, medication support groups, and open conversations. When society treats mental health seriously, more people find the courage to seek help. No one should suffer alone. Compassion can save lives. Depression is more than sadness. It is a medical condition that affects thoughts, emotion, and daily functioning. Many people struggle silently, masking their pains with smiles or business. This silence often makes the battle harder. Recognizing symptoms like fatigue, isolation, and loss of interest is an important first step. Depression is not a sign of weakness. It is a health challenge that requires care and understanding. Just like any illness, it deserves proper attention. Help exists through therapy, medication support groups, and open conversations. When society treats mental health seriously, more people find the courage to seek help. No one should suffer alone. Compassion can save lives.
Across Nigeria, a powerful migration wave is reshaping the nation's economic and social landscape, popularly known as Japa. The term captures the growing number of young professionals and skilled workers living in search of stability, opportunity, and systems that function. But beyond the emotional stories lies a deeper economic reality, one that demands urgent and practical solutions.
We love you. Bye-bye.
One of the most visible impacts is the loss of skilled labor. Nigeria invests heavily in training doctors, nurses, lecturers, engineers, and technology professionals. Yet, many of them are building their careers abroad, drawn by better pay, safer working environments, and clearer professional pathways. Hospitals become overstretched. Universities lose experienced lecturers. Industries struggle to find qualified hands. Productivity declines, and long-term development slows as the country loses both talent and the economic value they would have created. Migration also places pressure on the broader economy. Relocation expenses from tuition and visa fees to travel costs increase demand for foreign exchange, adding strain to the naira. A weaker currency raises the cost of imports, fuels inflation, and worsens the cost of living crisis. More Nigerians begin to consider leaving, creating a difficult cycle. Yet, the story is not one-sided. The Nigerian diaspora provides a vital economic cushion. Billions of dollars in remittances flow into the country each year, helping families pay for school fees, healthcare, housing, and daily needs. These inflows support household survival and contribute to foreign exchange earnings. But remittances cannot replace strong institutions, public infrastructure, or large-scale job creation. They help families cope, but they do not solve the structural challenges driving migration. The drivers of Japa are rooted in everyday realities. High unemployment and underemployment limit opportunities for young people to use their skills. Wages often fail to keep pace with rising costs of living. Infrastructural gaps, especially unreliable electricity, increase the cost of doing business and discourage investment. Insecurity and policy inconsistency further weaken confidence in building long-term futures at home. Reversing the trend begins with practical reforms that make staying in Nigeria a viable and attractive choice. Improving power supply, transport networks, and digital infrastructure can reduce business costs and unlock growth. When businesses thrive, they create jobs, expand industries, and provide opportunities for skilled professionals. Strategic investment in high-impact sectors is equally critical. Strengthening healthcare, modernizing education, supporting technology innovation, and boosting manufacturing can create meaningful career pathways. These sectors not only absorb skilled labor, but also drive productivity and economic diversification. Retention strategies in essential services must also improve. Competitive pay, safer work environments, modern equipment, and clear professional development pathways can help reduce the outflow of healthcare workers and academics. Support for research, training, and career progression strengthens institutions and gives professionals reasons to stay.
Entrepreneurship offers another path forward, better access to finance, fewer regulatory bottlenecks, and stronger support for small businesses can empower young Nigerians to build at home. A vibrant startup ecosystem turns job seekers into job creators and keeps innovation within the country. The diaspora can also become a strategic partner in development. Beyond remittances, Nigerians abroad bring skills, networks, and investment capital. Structured programs that encourage mentorship, knowledge transfer, and diaspora investment can transform brain drain into brain circulation when talent flows out and backing, strengthening both sides. At the center of all solution is trust, transparent governance, consistent policies, and visible improvements in public services rebuild confidence in national institutions. When people see progress in infrastructure, security, and economic management, the incentive to build a future at home grows stronger. Migration will always be part of a globalized world. The goal is not to stop movement, but to ensure it becomes a matter of choice, not necessity. By creating opportunities at home, valuing talent, and engaging citizens abroad as partners, Nigeria can turn the challenge of Japa into a pathway for renewal, resilience, and inclusive growth.
Morning headlines before you step out. Midday updates while you walk. Evening analysis when the day winds down. Wherever life takes you, Aneke TV keeps you informed, connected, and ahead. Aneke TV. Move with the world.
On this program, we examine important health issues, engage experts, and provide practical information to help individuals and communities make healthier choices. This is Health Matters, where your health comes first. We'll go on a short break now. Stay with us. Welcome back. Today on Health Matters, we are discussing an important public health topic, the safe use of medicines, a public health perspective. The safe use of medicines is not only on a personal responsibility, but also a public health priority. When medicines are used correctly, they improve health and save lives. However, when they are misused or overused, they can contribute to drug resistance, increased healthcare costs, avoidable illnesses, and preventable deaths. Public health specialists play a vital role in promoting medicine safety through health education, disease prevention, policy development, surveillance, and community awareness programs. Working alongside pharmacists, doctors, nurses, and other healthcare professionals, they help ensure that medicines are used responsibly for the benefit of individuals and society as a whole. Our focus today is the safe use of medicines, a public health perspective. Joining us in the studio is St. Rachel Ngozi, the CEO, Refreshing Hope Youth Initiative, public health specialist, a Nigerian registered nurse, and a Nigerian registered midwifery. Welcome to the studio, ma.
Thank you very much.
Okay, as we said, we are going to discuss the safe use of medicines from a public health perspective. Now, to begin the discussion, could you explain to us what safe use of medicines means from a public health perspective?
and why is important today?
Okay, thank you very much. Public health is otherwise known as societal health or community health. It incorporates everybody. It is the health, care for everybody else. It is not waiting until everybody is sick or somebody is sick before you begin to talk about it. It's more preventive than curative. And of course, you can't overemphasize the fact that when we prevent illnesses across all ages, across all sex, across all gender, that the economy will be much better because there will be high productivity, there will be more efficiency at work, there will be just so many good things. So public health is very, very aware and keen towards making sure that people are healthy, they are fine, they are top in their health at all times. So I mean, it is a very important issue to know that we have to do the right things before trouble comes. You don't have to wait until trouble strikes before you begin to look for a way out. So that is what public health does for us. Thank you.
From your experience being a public health specialist, what are some of the most common medication-related practices that pose risks to public, health in our communities?
Especially within our context, there are drugs that have been tagged controlled drugs. There are drugs that are supposed to be on the counter, which means you can walk into any pharmacy shop and get them. But we all know what happens within our context, within our society, that people just walk into the shops without the prescription of a doctor or a pharmacist, and they get themselves treated. Of course, we know that Nigeria is an endemic area for malaria and typhoid because of the type of water we eat, drink, and some other things. But it is also still very imperative that people, go see the professional in that way, that diagnoses, and make sure that what you want to treat or what you're about to treat is what you're actually suffering from. At the slightest symptom for an ordinary Nigerian, you just go to the shop and buy. In fact, you are the one prescribing and telling the pharmacist or the drug seller what you want. So that is one thing. We do a lot of self-medication. We also abuse drugs. Because I got sick last time and I was treated with a particular tablet, a particular medication. When next I feel the same way, I feel similar way, I'll just walk into the next available shop, drug shop, to get medication. So that is also abuse. There is also this fake and adulterated substandard drugs that we see people hawking. Drugs are not supposed to be hawked on the streets, for crying out loud, but we see it all the time, and it poses a great danger to the public health. Public health, the health of everybody, is dangerous. So and a whole lot of other things we do. For example, if somebody has an injection, maybe you have disposable needles and syringes. That means you take the injection once and then that is discarded. But sometimes you see that the same needle, the same syringe could be used multiple times. That is not so safe. And the disposal of those materials, either expired drugs or used materials for treatment that are supposed to be properly discarded. In the same word, it's not just everybody that goes to discard medical items or materials, but here we just do it anywhere. You go to anywhere, you find a lot of items that are not supposed to be exposed, including needles, including syringes, including cotton wools that have been used to, to take care of a sick person, and those are public health concerns and major ones at that.
Okay, now let's talk about the self-medication aspect. Self-medication is quite common in many places. What would you say are the factors that you think that contributes to this, and what are possible consequences?
One factor that I know is that we all take a lot of things for granted. Because it worked for A, it must work for me. Another very important factor which we must not neglect is the economic factor, because for you to be treated properly, you have to go and see a doctor, and for you to do that, you have to pay consultation fee. Sometimes it's not very cheap,
And you have the prescription, the prescribe, they are giving you, and all these things are quite exorbitant. So for somebody that doesn't have sufficient fund or doesn't have enough support, you see yourself going to buy and treat yourself. And of course, because of the abuses or because of the way we take drugs, sometimes some of our body systems have built resistance to a lot of medications. So you see that the same medications that are supposed to take care of a particular illness will not do that, so you have to buy them multiple times, or you have to do much more than that. And of course, we can overwork our system, our liver, by the kind of medications we take on our own without due consultations. So you have records of antibiotic resistance, but of course anti-malaria resistance. There are a lot of resistance in all the treatments we get because we have so abused them. So of course it's like somebody getting used to certain things. Okay, it's the normal thing, so it doesn't have the effect that it's supposed to have. So that is a major challenge.
Okay, now let's talk about the aspects where there's the normal practice of Nigerians, whereby we are being given prescribed medicine, but immediately we become to feel, better, we tend to stop that medication. What do you think might cause this thinking? Would we say thinking or ignorance?
Of course, it is ignorance. Yeah. That's one thing. But it's also, sometimes people forget. At other times, you think that you are taking medication just to feel well. You are taking care of the symptoms or the signs that are manifested. So, for example, if I feel headache, I just take paracetamol, 2 tablets. If that headache subsides, then I will just forget about it until next whenever I have headache, and that is abuse. It is not supposed to be so, because that is part of what builds up that resistance. Because when you abuse these drugs, you didn't take complete dose, and you cannot actually say that this particular medication or this treatment, because it did the work it was supposed to do. You cannot really tell. And some people actually go as far as mixing orthodox medicine with traditional medicine, so there's a lot of conquered mixture here and there. And how will you say who healed you? How will you say what healed you? How can you confirm or be so sure that it was the antibiotic or the other one that you took? So these are issues that we all have. A lot of us in Nigeria do that, and I think it's because there is no real check on it. People are talking, but maybe we need to do more of that sensitization. We need to talk more about the implications. We need to talk more about, the bad and side effects of some of our actions. Sometimes people do it ignorantly, but other times even people that know, I'm fine, it doesn't really matter. And that shouldn't be what it is. We should be able to take our medications as prescribed and religiously too.
Okay, now before we go deep into this discussion, we'll take a short break now. Stay with us.
Every second, the world changes, markets rise, leaders speak, stories unfold.
Welcome back, and you're still watching Health Matters on Aneke TV. And our discussion on the safe use of medicines, public health perspective, continues. So welcome back, ma'am.
Thank you.
So we are still discussing on the safe use of medicine, and we've been talking about the self-medication aspect, and you mentioned ignorance as one of the reasons why most Nigerians tend to go through self-medication, and you also mentioned the fact that we Nigerians tend to stop our medications as far as we start feeling better. So now let's move on to the aspect where you mentioned about antibiotics. So now antibiotics resistance has become a growing global concern. So could you help our viewers understand how the misuse of antibiotics contributes to this problem?
Antibiotics, it is supposed to treat bacterial infections. And bacterial infections can get into a lot of our major organs of the body and cause harm. So if you become resistant to it, that means you'll be taking much more than. But don't forget that these medications that we take, they are processed by the liver. So you can overwork the liver by the things you take, by the medication you take. And if you look very well, we can see that increase, liver problem is on the increase, kidney problem is on the increase, and make no mistake about it, these things are related. When people grow resistant, that means simple things that could be treated with one dose or one straight prescription of medication, let's say for 5-10 days, it will now take 1 whole month and still you don't get the results. It is not because the medication, of course, sometimes they could be, but most of the time it's not because the medication is no more functional or it's no more effective. It's because your own body has built resistance to it. It can no longer, destroy the things that it's supposed to destroy. It can no longer halt the actions it's supposed to halt, because you're stopping it from, okay, there's a virus, or there's a bacteria, or there's fungal infection that is growing in the body of a person, and you want to stop it. That is why you bring antibiotics, to stop that spread. And if normally you have to take that for 5 days and that spread is stopped, and you have been taking it 3 days, 2 days, you take it like this month, you have taken 2 days and you got well, you forgot about it. In 2 weeks' time, you feel feverish again. You went back to that antibiotic and take again maybe 2 or 3 doses, and then you stop again. And then you know that each of those times, the root cause of that problem has not been handled. It has not been properly dealt with. Because if you are told to take it for 5 days, it's because that is the period it needs to go and eliminate everything, every bacteria, every fungi, every virus at that time that is supposed to be eliminated. But because you took it only for 2 days, yes, some of them were eliminated, but others are still there. And they are still hiding somewhere. You come back after a period of time and you take back another haphazard treatment by yourself, then it is also still accumulating. The problem is still accumulating. At some point, you will not even get well anymore, because maybe what prompted you is you had fever. High fever was increasing and you are told it's infection and you have to take this antibiotic, and you started and the fever subsided, so you thought that the infection had gone. Meanwhile, it went hibernating somewhere. And so the problem it brings cannot be, because it also brings that damage I talked about, your liver, the kidney, other organs of the body. When you abuse this and then have resistance, because if you have resistance, now you're taking more. That thing they told you to take for 5 days, and you refuse and decided to take for 2 or 3 days. And subsequently, you want to take it for 5 full days, it will still not work. Other times, even when you take 10 days, it will not. But the drugs are still coming. They are chemicals, and they're still coming into that system. So they can weigh you down and destroy certain organs in your body.
Okay, now let's talk on the public health education. How does what role does the public health education play in promoting the responsible use of medicines, and how can communities be involved?
Okay, public health education is very key here. As public health professionals, we are doing something, but I think we can actually do more. And we also need this, your angle, that's the media, our media partners, to help us make noise about it. It is not good, it is not safe, it's not healthy to abuse drugs. It is not safe, it is not good to do self-medication. This has been said over time, but we cannot stop if we have not achieved what we're looking at. We go closer, we do sensitization on radios, we do on televisions, we also go in person in schools, in communities, in churches, in mosques, everywhere human beings gather, because public health is about community health. So we can never do too much of sensitization. We can never do too much of campaigns. We can never do too much of telling the people the right thing to do, because over time, it will eventually yield results.
Okay. Now let's talk about, you talk about partnering with the media. Let's talk about partnering with the pharmacists, the doctors, the nurses. How do public health specialists collaborate with these people and other healthcare professionals to improve, the medication safety?
There's a level of collaboration, but like what you're saying, is trying to enhance it, trying to improve on that, trying to improve on that relationship and building upon it. Because most times we find it difficult as human beings, particularly in this part of the world, to really work together in the team as it ought to be. Everybody wants to shine, and sometimes you outshine yourself. Every profession wants to shine. Sometimes you don't know your limitations. Everybody wants to do this or do the other one. If we learn and strengthen our referral system, it will go a long way helping us. You meet me as a nurse, I have a limit to what I can do for you. If your case, what you've told me, is something I can manage at the level, I would do that. But if it is beyond me, I should be able to refer you to maybe a medical doctor or a medical doctor. And if it is a general practitioner, the person should also be able to direct you to a specialist who will know more about that thing. And when we have this, so it's not about you are doing me or me are doing you or this group are doing the other. It is partners to make sure that the person we are dealing with, the patients we are handling, the clients we treat become whole, become well. So we should have a holistic approach. We're talking about, you were talking about drugs, but nutrition is also key. So if I'm just a nurse and you come to me, or I'm a medical doctor, you come to me and I prescribe drugs, I should also give you the idea or the link to a nutritionist or a dietitian who can tell you the other aspect of food, and not undermining that fact as if it doesn't matter, knowing that it is very key to the treatment regimen anybody has. And of course, when we're talking about sensitization, there are things I will tell you. There's a language I will use based on the area or where you're meeting me, and there's another register, like we call it, for a pharmacist, for instance, where he or she can come in and address that issue. I'm having an adverse effect from the drug I've taken. I don't know why. It is the area of the drug people, that's the pharmacist, to handle and to tell you, maybe it's because of this or because of that. I will not be master of all and continue to insist on, having everything by myself. So it's a wake-up call. And of course, the call cannot stop. We need to partner more. We need to work together more as health professionals, because at the end of the day, we want a better society. We want a safer society. We want healthier society. And we can only achieve that when we all come together. We are better and stronger together.
Okay. Before we went on the break, you spoke about the aspects whereby medicines are now being hawked, in the country, in the society, we now see medicines being hawked. So what do you think that with the increasing availability of medicines, what precautions should members of the public take when purchasing medications?
Don't buy drugs by the roadside. It's a major precautionary measure. When you're not feeling well, go to a professional. Let them prescribe for you, because it's actually better that you have that prescription. If you have a reaction, you know who to report to. But when you buy it like sweet on the road, you buy your medication on the street, or a wheelbarrow person carrying drugs, carrying paracetamol, you may not even know the date has expired. Because who is that same person that wants to hawk drugs that are still sound on, on barrels or all that cure. So one precautionary measure everybody must take is to always go through the right process to procure your drugs. You can meet a doctor, you can meet a pharmacist and a trained pharmacist, and then get those prescriptions. Make sure you check the date. Make sure you read through the pamphlet. That one, a lot of people ignore it. I don't play with it. Sometimes I may have even brought out the tablets to take, then I will go back to the literature to go through, look at the dosage, look at the adverse event, look at possible side effects, look at contraindications, look at, okay, sometimes it's also funny for me too, because maybe a drug I've been taking for years. I've seen them, I know I've been giving out to other people, treating other people, and suddenly I want to look at it. I want to make sure that is still intact, because something may have changed and you wouldn't know. You think, oh, it's the same aspirin we used to take. Oh, it's the same, this one, I know it. It is always very good, because there's nobody that will know a drug better than the manufacturer. So it's always good to look at the instruction manual and make sure you follow through.
Okay, and finally, can you please give us a key message to give the viewers a key message towards the safe use of medicines?
The key message I will give again is that we should be careful the things we take, go through the right route, go through the right process, meet the right professionals, read the instructions, take according to prescription. It's not like they say you should take 2 tablets and you 3 times, you decide to take 1 3 times or otherwise. Don't go and take overdose. The head is too much, it's paining me too much, they ask you to take 2, you decide to take 4. That is abuse and it is not right. It is not safe for you, it's not safe for the society. So avoid abuse. And there is this provision NAFDAC has also made, because we also have to look out for, that is, NAFDAC is a regulatory body in Nigeria that checks that food and drugs in Nigeria are safe for use. So you should also check out and make sure that they are NAFDAC approved. And there is an app they have that you also can report adverse events. That's a side effect. If you have taken a drug and then you start having rash, you start fainting, you start this and that, you can report through the contact information they provided in the app. You submit your name, submit what you have taken, submit what you have, what the problem you are seeing after you have taken medication or food. So you report to them. So let us take advantage of what is available to us.
Thank you very much, Ma. Thank you to our guest for those insightful information on the safe use of medicines. As a reminder, medicines should always be used responsibly and according to advice of qualified healthcare professionals. Avoid self-medication, complete prescribed treatment as directed, and never share prescription medicines with others. By making informed decisions and supporting public health efforts, we can reduce medication-related risks, prevent drug resistance, and promote healthier communities. That brings us to the end of today's program. I am Sharon Uchi, and thank you for watching Health Matters on Aneke TV. See you next time.
Every second, the world changes, markets rise, leaders speak, stories unfold. To keep up, you don't just need news, you need clarity, you need speed, you need perspective.
That's why Aneke TV brings you the global pulse. Accurate, reliable, right when it matters most. Aneke TV. Move with the world. Every day, the world produces noise, but only a few moments produce meaning. Information is everywhere. Understanding is rare. Because facts alone do not enlighten. Context does. Analysis does. Perspective does. Welcome to Aneke TV, where news is not merely reported, it is examined. Where conversations are not merely held, they are elevated. Where stories are not merely told, they are understood. In governance, in business, in society, in the global arena, clarity is power, discernment is advantage, awareness is responsibility. This is broadcasting with purpose, journalism with depth, programming with intellect. Nigeria, the world, we are live. Aneke TV, broadcasting daily, informing minds, shaping perspective.
Kano State occupies a unique position in Nigeria's history as one of the country's eldest centers of commerce, learning and civilization. Situated in the northwest geopolitical zone, the state remains a strategic economic hub whose influence extends beyond Nigeria into West and Central Africa. With one of the country's largest populations, Kano continues to shape national conversations on politics, trade, agriculture, education, and culture. Historically, Kano traces its origins to the ancient Hausa city-states, with documented history spanning more than 1,000 years. The famous Kano Chronicles recount the reigns of successive rulers who transformed the city into a thriving commercial and administrative center. Today, the ancient city walls, the emir's palace, and the centuries-old Komi market remain enduring symbols of Kano's rich heritage and resilience. Politically, Kano has consistently played a defining role in Nigeria's democratic evolution. Since the return to sovereign rule in 1999, the state has remained one of the country's most politically influential voting blocs. Its large voting population often makes Kano a decisive factor during presidential elections, while its political leaders have continued to shape national discourse across party lines. The state's leadership structure reflects a balance between constitutional governance and traditional authority. The executive governor oversees civil administration, while the emirate institution continues to serve as a respected custodian of culture, tradition, and conflict resolution. This dual system has enabled traditional institutions to complement government effort in community mobilization, social stability, and grassroots development. Religion occupies a central place in the social life of Kano. Islam is the predominant faith and influences education, commerce, family life, and public administration. At the same time, Kano is home to Christian communities and adherents of other faiths who contribute to the state's economic and social development. Religious leaders across denominations have continued to advocate peaceful coexistence, tolerance, and dialogue as essential ingredients for national unity. Economically, Kano remains one of Nigeria's strongest commercial centers. For centuries, it has served as a major gateway linking Nigeria with neighboring Niger Republic, Chad, Cameroon, and other parts of the Sahel. Its extensive markets attract traders dealing in textiles, grains, leather products, livestock, household goods, and manufactured items, making the state a critical driver of regional commerce. Agriculture remains the backbone of Kano's economy. Farmers cultivate crops such as rice, maize, millet, sorghum, groundnuts, tomatoes, onions, and vegetables, while livestock production contributes significantly to food security and rural livelihoods. The state also supports irrigation farming, allowing year-round agricultural activities in many communities. Industrialization has equally defined Kano's economic landscape. The Chalawa and Sharada industrial estates have historically hosted textile manufacturers, leather processors, food industries, and pharmaceutical companies. Although the textile industry experienced setbacks over the years, government and private sector investments continue to promote industrial revival through improved infrastructure and business-friendly policies. The informal economy is another pillar of Kano's prosperity. Thousands of small and medium-sized enterprises operate across markets, workshops, and neighborhood clusters, creating employment opportunities in tailoring, metalworks, leather processing, transport services, food processing, and retail trade. These enterprises contribute significantly to household incomes and local economic growth. Education has remained an important component of Kano's development journey. The state hosts numerous universities, polytechnics, colleges of education, and research institutions, alongside centuries-old Islamic schools that have preserved scholarship in Arabic and Islamic jurisprudence. Government reforms continue to focus on expanding access to formal education while strengthening technical and vocational skills for young people. Healthcare services have also expanded through investment in primary healthcare, specialist hospitals, and disease control programs. Public health interventions targeting maternal care, child immunization, and infectious disease prevention continue to improve health outcomes across urban and rural communities. Kano's cultural identity remains one of its greatest assets. Traditional festivals, colorful horse riding displays during Eid celebrations, indigenous music, crafts, architecture, and cuisine reflect centuries of cultural continuity. The globally recognized Dobo Festival showcases the splendor of the Emirate tradition and attracts visitors from within and outside Nigeria, reinforcing Kano's position as a leading cultural destination. The state's rich aesthetic traditions are evident in leatherworks, embroidery, weaving, dyeing, and metal craftsmanship. These industries preserve indigenous knowledge while providing livelihoods for thousands of artisans whose products reach international markets. Socially, Kano reflects Nigeria's diversity. While maintaining strong traditional values, the state continues to embrace innovation, entrepreneurship, and modern governance. Community institutions, youth organizations, women groups, and religious bodies play significant roles in promoting education, conflict resolution, and social development. Security remains an important priority. Successive administrations have strengthened collaboration among security agencies, traditional rulers, religious leaders, and community groups to address emerging security challenges and sustain peace across the state. Kano's strategic location, entrepreneurial population, and extensive commercial networks continue to position it as one of Nigeria's most important investment destinations. Ongoing infrastructure projects in transportation, energy, housing, and industrial development are expected to further enhance its competitiveness within the national economy. Beyond its economic strength, Kano remains a symbol of Nigeria's unity in diversity. For generations, people from every region of the country have lived, traded, and built businesses in the state, contributing to its cosmopolitan character. This long-standing tradition of commerce, cultural exchange, and peaceful coexistence continues to reinforce Kano's role as a bridge between Nigeria's diverse peoples. As Nigeria advances its quest for sustainable development, Kano State remains central to the country's future, leveraging its historical legacy, economic resilience, cultural richness, and human capital to contribute meaningfully to national integration, inclusive growth, and shared prosperity.
Time, the silent witness to human courage, the keeper of memory, the archivist of greatness.
Across the vast landscapes of Africa, from the savannas to the bustling cities, voices once rose, ideas once bound, and visions once dared to challenge the limits of their age.
They were not merely individuals. They were epochs in human form.
In literature, minds such as Chinua Achebe, Wole Soyinka, and Ngugi wa Thiong'o reclaimed the African narrative.
Through ink and imagination, they dismantled distorted histories and restored the dignity of African identity. Their words were not just stories.
They were mirrors, reflecting a people long misunderstood, and windows opening the world to the depths of African civilization.
In the realm of science and knowledge, pioneers like Philip Emeagwali proved that African intellect could reshape the frontiers of computing and technology. Their work was a quiet revolution, reminding the world that innovation knows no geography.
And in leadership, towering figures emerged when history demanded courage. Men like Nnamdi Azikiwe, Kwame Nkrumah, Nelson Mandela, and Julius Nyerere redefined freedom, not as a privilege bestowed, but as a right reclaimed.
They spoke for millions. They endured prisons, exile, and resistance. Yet, their vision transcended the politics of their time.
They dreamed of a continent awakened. Today, their echoes travel through generations.
In every African classroom, in every curious mind, in every dream that refuses limitation. For history is not merely what has passed, it is the foundation upon which tomorrow stands.
The past still speaks. Its lessons remain. Its voices endure.
This is not just remembrance, it is inheritance. Echoes of the past, where history breathes and legacy lives on. Morning headlines before you step out. Midday updates while you walk. Evening analysis when the day winds down. Wherever life takes you, Aneke TV keeps you informed, connected, and ahead. Aneke TV. Move with the world.
Nigeria's worsening security situation has continued to intensify calls for the creation of state police, as kidnapping, banditry, terrorism, and violent crimes stretch the capacity of federal security agencies across several regions. In recent years, Nigeria has witnessed repeated mass abductions of school children and civilians, including incidents in Kaduna, Niger, Zamfara, and Katsina states, where armed groups have targeted schools, highways, and rural communities. The Chibok schoolgirls' abduction in Borno State, the Kankara school attack in Katsina, and the recent wave of kidnappings along the Abuja-Kaduna Expressway remain defining examples of the scale of insecurity confronting the country. Beyond school attacks, rural banditry in the northwest has led to mass displacement of communities, destruction of livelihoods, and repeated negotiations for hostage releases. In the southeast, violent attacks on security formations and civilian targets have also been recorded in parts of Anambra, Imo, and Enugu states. In the northeast, insurgency linked to Boko Haram and ISWAP continues to destabilize rural and border communities despite years of military oppression. Security analysts argue that these overlapping crises expose a major structural gap: Nigeria's centralized policing system. With the Nigeria Police Force controlled federally, operational directives, logistics, and deployment approvals often require central clearance, even when emergencies are localized. A key challenge often raised is the limited operational authority of state governors over commissioners of police. While governors are officially described as chief security officers of their states, in practice, commissioners of police in each state report directly to the Inspector General of Police in Abuja. This means governors cannot independently order arrests, deployments, or tactical operations without federal approval. There have been several public instances where governors requested urgent deployment or redeployment of police personnel during crisis, only for delays or bureaucratic procedures to slow response time. In fast-moving security emergencies such as kidnappings or communal clashes, these delays can prove critical. Supporters of state police argue that decentralization would allow states to respond faster, using officers recruited, trained, and deployed within local environments. They say local policing would improve intelligence gathering because officers understand local languages, terrain, and community networks.
which are essential in tracking criminal groups operating in rural and forested areas. They also point to countries with decentralized policing systems. In the United States, state and local police forces operate independently but coordinate through federal agencies when necessary. In Germany, policing is primarily managed at state level, Länder, while maintaining federal oversight for national security. India also maintains state-controlled police forces under a federal constitutional framework. However, Nigeria's security experts caution that without strong oversight, state police could be vulnerable to political interference. There are concerns that governors could misuse security structures against political opponents, journalists, or dissenting voices, especially in states with weak institutional checks. Human rights advocates also warn that disparity in funding and training between states could create unequal policing standards across the country. Wealthier states may develop stronger forces, while poorer regions could struggle to maintain professional capacity, potentially widening security inequality. Despite these concerns, many analysts argue that the current centralized system is overstretched. With Nigeria's population exceeding 200 million and vast ungoverned rural spaces, federal police presence is often thin on the ground, creating operational vacuums exploited by armed groups. In several kidnapping cases along highways and remote communities, response times have been delayed due to distance, logistics, and command structure approvals. This has strengthened argument that localized policing would reduce response time and improve preventive intelligence rather than reactive operations. Proponents now suggest a hybrid model where state police operate under national standards with unified training, strict federal oversight, and shared intelligence systems. This, they argue, would balance local efficiency with national control and reduce the risk of abuse. Others propose phased implementation, beginning with strengthened community policing units upgraded into full state structures over time, allowing gradual reform without destabilizing existing security frameworks. Ultimately, the debate reflects a central national question: whether Nigeria's current security architecture can continue to carry the burden of rising insecurity, or whether decentralized policing is now a necessary step toward more effective protection of lives and property. What remains clear is that any reform must be guided by strong accountability, professional standards, constitutional safeguards, and political neutrality to ensure that security institutions serve citizens and not power structures.
Enterprise is on the move, from the resilience of small businesses to the expanding reach of indigenous industries. Commerce thrives on innovation, determination, and vision. Finance is evolving, powered by technology and driven by a new generation of entrepreneurs. In a rapidly changing world, digital transformation is redefining how we save, invest, and grow wealth. From energy to agriculture, manufacturing to tech, Nigeria's economic landscape continues to diversify. Policies shift, markets respond, and opportunities emerge. Every figure tells a story. Every trend shapes the future. The question is, where is the next opportunity? On Aneke TV, we bring you clarity beyond the numbers. This is Business Outlook on Aneke TV, tracking the markets, analyzing the trends, and spotlighting the drivers of economic growth. Aneke TV, informing enterprise, shaping perspective. Across Nigeria's dynamic economy, enterprise is on the move. From the resilience of small businesses to the expanding reach of indigenous industries, commerce thrives on innovation, determination, and vision. Finance is evolving, powered by technology and driven by a new generation of entrepreneurs. In a rapidly changing world, digital transformation is redefining how we save, invest, and grow wealth. From energy to agriculture, manufacturing to tech, Nigeria's economic landscape continues to diversify. Policies shift, markets respond, and opportunities emerge. Every figure tells.
From the trading floors of Lagos to the commodity hubs of Enugu, we say welcome to Aneke TV business segment, coming to you live from Enugu. A trillion naira surge on the Nigerian exchange today as a massive banking bloc rewrites the local narrative. Globally, Wall Street and Asian tech hubs are fighting their way back into the green, while Brent crude hovers on a knife edge, just under $80 amid rising Middle East tensions. We have all the final tallies, the volume movers, and the market moving contest you need right now. And this is the business desk, where data meets destiny, and your weight finds its voice. I am Uche Osai. Let's get down to the numbers. Starting with the Nigerian equities market, where the Nigerian exchange experienced a positive trading section today, being Thursday, July 9th, 2026, driven by strong buying interest in heavyweights like FBN Holdings and International Breweries, which helped push the broader market into positive territory despite notable sell-offs in a few blue-chip names. Nigerian Exchange All Asia Index closed up 1,774.84 points, making a positive 0.73% at 244,234.82, and then the market capitalization gained approximately 1.14 trillion naira to close at 156.72 trillion naira. Market breadth was positive with 29 gainers outpacing 29 decliners. Total volume traded today stood at 1.56 billion shares, valued at 103.49 billion naira across 39,724 deals. And quickly taking a look at the volume movers, where the market transaction volume was massively dominated by a single financial block, accounting for the vast majority of the day's turnover activity. And then looking at the heavy movers, FBN Holdings PLC, Trail's first hold company, moved 1.26 billion units of shares, in a market total volume where all equity stood at 1.56 billion shares. That's a heavy moving right there. And then quickly taking a look at the top 5 gainers, where International Breweries PLC, yes, traded as Interbrew, closed at 12 naira 10 kobo, making a positive adjustment of 10%. And then we are seeing first FBN Holding PLC traded as first hold company, today closing at 65 naira 55 kobo, equally making a bullish adjustment of 9.96%. Abi Mortgage Bank PLC, in the positive, made a bullish adjustment of 9.88% to close at 8 naira 90 kobo, followed by Transnationwide Express PLC, which closed at 3 naira 26 kobo to make a positive bullish adjustment of 9.76%. Honeywell Flour Mill PLC, traded as Honey Flour, today closed in the bearish range of 9.68 bullish percent adjustment to close its trading book at 17 naira. And quickly taking a look at the leggers. Yes, talking about the top 5 losers for today. We are seeing Geregu Power PLC, traded as Geregu, closing at 825 naira 70 kobo in the negative adjustment of 10%. Thomas Wyatt Nigeria PLC closed at 2 naira 70 kobo in the bearish rim, making a dip of a negative 10% adjustment. Equally, we are seeing Seplat Energy PLC, traded as Seplat, equally bearish, slimming in the dip of a negative 10% adjustment to close at 10,227.60 kobo. And then we are seeing Bua Foods PLC. Yes, they are closing in the negative as well, as he closes trading book today at 845 naira 10 kobo to make a dip of a negative 10% adjustment. Boasment PLC today was equally bearish, as he made a negative adjustment of 9.99% to close at 306 naira 20 kobo. And that takes us quickly to the forex market. Yes, the Nigerian naira maintained a relative stable patch today across both the official window and the parallel market. The split spread between both markets continued to hover tightly under the 14 naira margin. Now quickly taking a look at the market performance for today. Yes, against the US dollars, the naira at the official market closed at 1,373 naira 99 kobo. And at the parallel market, or the stream market or official market, we saw the naira at 1,410 naira. And against the British pound, at the official market, the naira held ground at 1,843 naira 23 kobo, and in the street market it closed at 1,890 naira. And then moving on to take a look at the performance of the naira against the euro. Yes, at the street market it closed at 1,615 naira, whereas at the official market it stood at 1,572 naira 8 kobo. And quickly, here is our key market observation today. Taking a look at the spread. The arbitrage gap between the official Nigerian foreign exchange market and the parallel market stands at exactly 36 naira 1 kobo for the greenback, pointing to sustained structural equilibrium. Another factor we noticed today is the midweek dynamics. Why the dollar saw mild demand? Yes, why it saw a mild demand pressure in local centers like Lagos and Abuja. Minor interventions and standard liquidity tiers kept rates firmly, tethered to their recent psychological support baselines. And quickly moving on to the international energy market, where Brent crude prices experienced higher volatility today, holding firm near the upper end of its recent trading range due to escalating geopolitical tension in the Middle East. The current spot price stood at $78.57 per barrel, as of mid-afternoon trading, and today's daily change stood at approximately 55 cents, making a positive adjustment of a 0.70%, from the previous close, recovering from an early morning dip at $76.81. Intraday prices hovered between a low of $77.81 and an early highs of $79.22, remaining tightly consolidated below this week's psychological baseline of $80. The core market drivers here. One, we'll take a look at the Hormuz risk premium. Prices are heavily supported following a second consecutive wave of overnight U.S. military strikes, targeting Iranian military assets. This comes after recent drones and fast boat hostilities directed at oil and LNG carriers attempting to navigate the Strait of Hormuz. Another factor here is the sanctions. Yes, sanctions tightening, where the U.S. Treasury revocation of general licenses permitting Iranian oil sales has effectively taken barrels off the market, reinforcing expectations of a structural tightness throughout the summer. And then another factor that moved the market today is the profit-taking layer, where the underlying gains were slightly capped by active profit-taking across European trading desks after Brent's sharp rally in the week briefly forced the commodity past $80.50 per barrel. And quickly moving on to the Nigerian commodities market, where the Nigerian commodities market reflects a mixed trading section across the spot and exchange bourse. High production costs and regional logistic premiums continue to keep local grain baselines sticky, while international demand heavily shapes cash crop performance. I'm quickly taking a market overview, and structural drivers of export sentiment is one key that is when we take a look at the structural market drivers. Cash crops destined for export like cocoa and cashew nuts maintain high valuation threshold driven by favorable global exchange metrics. Domestic grain stability here is another factor. Grains are seeing flat to mild consolidation as the mid-year lean season pressure are countered by structured off-takers, distributions and standard seasonal volume hitting domestic hubs. Now quickly, key commodity and export grain performance. When we take a look, starting with cocoa, yes, cocoa as today stood at 6,924,001. 6,924,140 naira, per metric ton, indicating a stable, though at high global threshold, it remained stable. And then taking a look at the price of cashew nuts, cashew nuts today per metric ton stood at 1,719,400 naira, indicating a positive adjustment of daily 4.91%. Indicating a bullish trajectory here, driven by external export contracts. And then taking a look at Shogun, yes, it stood at 333 naira, 333,280 naira, per metric ton. It still stands firm, though high demand from industrial breweries, continue to drive the price of Shogun. And then when we take a look at maize, the white maize that we know, per metric ton is stood at 318,910 naira, indicating a negative daily adjustment of a 0.47%. So the trajectory still remains flat, though minor downward correction on supply liquidity. And taking a look at soybeans, it stood at 568 naira, 250 naira, 568,250 naira, still, a bit steady, though having an indication of sideways domestic crush demand. And then when you take a look at paddy rice, it stood at 371,880 naira, on the losing streak of a negative 4.96 losing daily adjustment. Yes, the trend here is that of bearish, correcting from local peak resistance levels. I'm quickly giving you strategic insights on export grains. We're starting with the Shogun pivot. Shogun remains highly resilient as regional brewery groups shift aggressively towards locals, sourcing to avoid complex forest import lines. Spot market off-takers are keeping the floor price well defended at the 333,000 metric ton mark. Soybean and maize. Soybeans are holding standard support levels, while it functions as both an industrial oil seed and an export grain. Current volumes are mostly circulating internally for poultry feed production. Maize is experiencing marginal contraction as structural market intervention thin out aggressive retail speculation. Now quickly moving on to the global scene, where the international market, global stock markets staged a cautious recovery today as broader, financial settlement stabilized following intense geopolitical volatility between the U.S. and Iran earlier in the week. Tech-led rebounds and a minor cooling in bond yields drove the positive momentum. United States Wall Street, where U.S. indices rebounded, erasing yesterday's losses and stabilizing treasury yields. These are 10-year, holding around 4.54%, and a strong recovery in artificial intelligence and semiconductors. Example, Micron Technology, provided key support ahead of the upcoming Q2 earnings season. And quickly taking a look at S&P 500, it stood at a positive 0.70% daily adjustment, and then the Jones Industrial Average equally standing at a positive 0.40%. That's an indication of 198 points added. And then Nasdaq Composite, it made a daily percent adjustment of a positive 0.90% as well. And then quickly moving on to the European markets, where European equities steadied into mild positive territory at the close, clawing back some grounds after the midweek sell-off triggered by the breakdown of the temporary Middle East truce. Taking a look at Germany's DAX, it closed on a positive 0.30%, closing near 24,963.05%. And France CAC, France CAC 40 equally in the positive realm of a 0.90%. And then we take a look at Spain, where IBEX 35, though modestly higher, tracking the wider Eurozone recovery. And then the United Kingdom FTSE 100, made a dip of a negative 0.60%. It bucked the trend, closing lower at 10,422,075 points due to heavy commodity exposure and persistent domestic structural weight. And quickly moving on to the Asian market, where Asian bonds experienced a sharp reversal from yesterday's massive losses, which had put several regional tech indices on the brink of bear market territory. And now taking a look at South Korea's Kospi, which made a positive 0.60%, closing at 7,291.91 points. Bounced back from yesterday's steep 5.3% plunge, led by a 5.3% recovery in chip giant SK Hynix. China Shanghai Composite made a positive 1.70%, which is an indication of a strongly bullish ahead of the highly anticipated domestic inflation data. And in Hong Kong, Hang Seng made a negative 0.70%. It dipped into the red, dragged down by select hardware and Apple supply chain devs. And then quickly taking a look at Japan Nikkei 225. It added a 1.40% to close at 67,743.85 points, propelled by chip equipment manufacturer Tokyo Electron, which jumped a positive 5.5%. So, whatever the market throws at the balls, we'll be right here to break down what it means for your business, your investment, and your bottom line. For the entire business team here at the headquarters, I am Uche Osai. Do have a productive and pleasant evening ahead. We'll see you at the opening of the bell tomorrow.
Across Nigeria's dynamic economy, enterprise is on the move. From the resilience of small businesses to the expanding reach of indigenous industries, commerce thrives on innovation, determination, and vision. Finance is evolving, powered by technology and driven by a new generation of entrepreneurs. In a rapidly changing world, digital transformation is redefining how we save, invest, and grow wealth. From energy to agriculture, manufacturing to tech, Nigeria's economic landscape continues to diversify. Policies shift, markets respond, and opportunities emerge. Every figure tells a story. Every trend shapes the future. The question is, where is the next opportunity? On Aneke TV, we bring you clarity beyond the numbers. This is Business Outlook on Aneke TV, tracking the markets, analyzing the trends, and spotlighting the drivers of economic growth. Aneke TV, informing enterprise, shaping perspective.
Nigeria's debt profile continues to rise, raising concerns among economists about sustainability and long-term economic stability. As of 2025, the total public debt was estimated to be around 152 trillion naira, or roughly $190 billion, according to the Debt Management Office. Debt servicing now consumes a significant share of government revenue, limiting spending on infrastructure, health, and education. Economists say the challenge is not only how much Nigeria borrows, but how effectively borrowed funds are converted into productive assets. The World Bank has repeatedly highlighted weaknesses in Nigeria's public financial management system, including inefficiencies in capital budget execution and limited transparency in project delivery. Across the country, there are recurring examples of abandoned and uncompleted projects, despite significant public expenditure. Infrastructure studies show that cost overruns, delays, and project abandonment remain common in public sector delivery, often due to procurement weaknesses and poor oversight. Roads, hospital facilities, and housing projects in several states remain uncompleted years after budget releases and contract awards. In the power sector, Nigeria continues to lose an estimated $29 billion annually due to unreliable electricity supply and infrastructure deficits, according to industry estimates cited in international reporting. Despite repeated investment cycles, grid instability and transmission constraints persist, limiting industrial growth. Governance experts also point to leakages in public finance management. Studies by international organizations have estimated that Nigeria lost billions annually in previous decades to corruption-related inefficiencies, including inflated contracts and weak monitoring systems. These leakages reduce the impact of borrowing and weaken development outcomes. Even social intervention programs have faced scrutiny over accountability and targeting inefficiencies, with investigations in recent years leading to recoveries for mismanaged funds in some federal programs. Despite these challenges, Nigeria remains richly endowed. The country has more than 70 million hectares of arable land, according to the Food and Agriculture Organization. Yet, agricultural productivity remains below potential due to limited mechanization and storage infrastructure. Agriculture still employs a large share of the workforce, but contributes less than expected to GDP.
In the energy sector, Nigeria produces over 1 million barrels of crude oil per day, according to OPEC data. Yet, for years, depended heavily on imported refined products, creating pressure on foreign exchange and public finances. New refining capacity is beginning to shift these balances, offering potential savings in import costs. The solid minerals sector also remains largely underdeveloped, despite more than 40 commercially viable mineral resources, including lithium, gold, and iron ore. Industry reports suggest the sector contributes less than 1% of GDP, despite its strong export potential. Experts argue that reducing Nigeria's dependence on borrowing will require a shift from consumption-driven spending to productivity-led investments. This includes strengthening procurement systems, enforcing project completion audits, expanding non-oil revenue, and accelerating public-private partnerships in infrastructure delivery. Ultimately, analysts say that Nigeria's economic challenge is not the absence of resources, but the efficiency of conversion. Borrowing, they argue, only becomes sustainable when it is tied directly to productive investment and measurable national outputs. I am Princess Ken Ochoma, Aneke TV News.
In a world that never stands still, where stories break in seconds and moments shape history, one station keeps you connected to your nation, to the continent, to the world.
From breaking news to powerful stories, from business and politics to culture, lifestyle and entertainment, we inform, we inspire, we keep you ahead.
This is more than television. This is your window to everywhere that matters.
Aneke TV. Move with the world.
Came through flexing cause they know I got the sauce. Got the presence on me, I can't ever take it off. That's why I came, country boy stepping, yeah, I'm country boy stepping. Country boy stepping, yeah, I'm country boy stepping. Yeah, they can't get like me, rocking boots and white tee. Designer on my cuff, ring something like a movie. Country boy stepping, yeah, I'm country boy stepping. Country boy stepping, yeah, I'm country boy stepping. Artist out the ranch, I just told you that I'm about it. I might take offense if you tell me that you doubt it. This is what it is, yeah, I'm known to make it rowdy. Then I'm for the fit, and I drive a wide body. Who you know, but like this, nobody. Can't go slow, I gotta hit that body. I'm the top, for the top, I can't never take a break. Yeah, I'm hot, and you not, that's why all my records bang. Oh, it's been a long, hard road, gotta go home. You know the way that I'm gon' keep going. Yeah. Came through flexing cause they know I got the sauce. Got the presence on me, I can't ever take it off. That's why I came, country boy stepping. Yeah, I'm country boy stepping. Country boy stepping, yeah, I'm country boy stepping. Yeah, they can't get like me, rocking boots and white tee. Designer on my cuff, ring something like a movie. Country boy stepping, yeah, I'm country boy stepping. Country boy stepping, yeah, I'm country boy stepping. Yeah, why they mad at a man like me? I went too crazy. Better take that knee and kiss my ring, cause I be royalty. Everywhere I go, my scene, and they be hating. That's such a lame thing. Yeah, y'all be lame teams. I could never ever go outside like that. Yeah, my people got my back, and I know that that's a fact. So I won't worry about a thing. I'm gonna keep on burning track. Do you get what I mean? I got faith in my dream. Oh, Yeah, can't do inflection cause they know I got the sauce. Got the presence on me, I can't ever take it off. That's why I came, country boy stepping. Yeah, I'm country boy stepping. Country boy stepping. Yeah, I'm country boy stepping. Yeah, they can't get like me. Rocky roots and white tees. On my cousin ain't something like a mobile. Country boy stepping. Yeah, I'm country boy stepping. Country boy stepping. Yeah, I'm country boy stepping.
Nigeria, a land of striking contrast, where nature unfolds into dominant ecological identities. The lush southern forests and the vast northern savanna belts, stretching from the humid Atlantic coast to the dry fringes of the Sahara. Nigeria's vegetation is shaped by climate, rainfall and human activity. Broadly, it is divided into the southern forest zones and the northern savanna belts. In the south, abundant rainfall gives rise to tropical rainforest, thick, multi-layered ecosystems rich in biodiversity, towering trees from a continuous canopy, sheltering countless plants and animal species. These forests are not only ecological treasures, but also economic lifelines, supporting agriculture and livelihoods. Closer to the coast, fresh water and mangrove swamps dominate. Here, water and land intertwine, creating unique habitats adapted to flooding and salinity. The mangrove forests of the Niger Delta are among the largest in Africa, vital for coastal protection and marine life. Moving northward, forests gradually give way to the Guinea savanna, a mix of tall grasses and scattered trees. This region supports farming and livestock, forming Nigeria's agricultural heartland. Further north lies the Sudan savanna, where rainfall decreases and vegetation becomes sparser. Life here adapts to longer dry seasons and harsher conditions. At the northern edge, the Sahel savanna marks the transition to the desert. Vegetation is sparse, and survival depends on resilience of both people and nature. However, Nigeria's vegetation faces growing threats. Deforestation in the south and desertification in the north are reshaping the landscape. Population growth, agriculture, and climate change continue to exert pressure on these fragile ecosystems. Yet, hope remains. Across the country, conservation efforts are taking root, from reforestation projects to sustainable land management practices, from the dense forests of the south to the open savannas of the north. Nigeria's vegetation tells a story of diversity, resilience, and responsibility. A story that calls on all of us to protect the natural heritage we share.
In an age of endless information, the true advantage is not access, it is interpretation. Welcome to Aneke TV, where journalism goes beyond headlines, beyond reaction, beyond speculation. Here, stories are investigated, issues are analyzed, voices are challenged, because an informed society is a stronger society. A discerning audience is a powerful audience. We are live. Daily broadcasting, relentless clarity. Aneke TV, where knowledge meets broadcast.